Speaking of an hour of time, we have an entire hour of time right here. The history, not even a 1 hour, at least 2 hours considering the way we are. The history of the USS Enterprise Part 3, Revenged, Served, Hot, by Animarchy History. And so, you know, the playlist is like 5-ish hours, give or take altogether. Holy shit, that playlist will need to have a separate stream of its own, you know? Like, it will be a reaction Sunday fan special, something like that. Not even a Sunday. So you want to see it tomorrow? Oh, no. Tomorrow I will have to do like the regular stream, not like a 4 hour plus. Because I have work on Sunday, you know that. So, that entire Fenrir Warhammer short will need a reaction Friday of its own. Okay, yeah, no, great. Alright, in that case, let's start with the Enterprise. Let's go. The Solomon Islands, November 1942. We will plan a Friday for it specifically. Yeah. A Friday. And, noted, I got time to work my magic and organize some shits if needed into playlist. Thank you, Rainbow. Thank you. Really. We can do that next Friday, by the way. Like, directly. Exactly, yeah. After brutal fighting over the island of Guadalcanal, the US Navy has been defeated at the Battle of Santa Cruz, resulting in the loss of the USS Hornet. Ouch. With the war in Europe intensifying, the US and ANZAC forces are undermanned, under-resourced and stretched to the limit. The Japanese know this and are preparing to take the offensive. I feel like the Endeavor pose, after he fought Tatsunomo in season 4. Oh, damn. As the Imperial Japanese Navy amass their ships on the horizon, there's only one task force of ships in position to halt their attack. And at the core of this force, there was only one aircraft carrier. Repeat. USS Enterprise. She is pissed after seeing her sisters die. Oh yes. Oh, that's the lady who went Super Saiyan in the last reaction, right? Yep, that's the one. That's the one. The big girl is pissed now. I wonder, did the USS Enterprise, the plane she carries, it's at the time of 1942 the Wildcat, right? The F4F. Did she switch at some point the aircraft to F6F Hellcats? Or even the F8 Bearcats? Like, I'm just wondering. It would make sense, to be honest. Considering it's the flagship, right? She unleashed Love Queen Beach mode. True. Here she is, by the way. As a waifu. Yep, the Hellcats didn't come until mid or late 43 into early 44. Oh, damn. Okay. Then we are bossing with the Wildcats for now. Thankfully, the Wildcats are hard to destroy. She's throwing smoke in the air. She's angry as hell. Yorktown? Yeah, that's probably Yorktown. Hornet. Damn. Damn right, the good old Grumman aircraft are tanky as fuck. Oh yes. By the way, that's at 50% of volume. Imagine what will be at 100. Let's check it. Damn. How many parts is this thingy? 4 parts. We are at part 3 right now. Just entering party. Oh damn. Oh damn. Oh damn it is. We are watching the part for today too? No. It's a week after the next one. Like next week is already augmented by further. So the week after that will be with the last part of the Enterprise history.
USS Enterprise stood alone. She was the only aircraft carrier the US Navy had in the Pacific Theater.
Yeah.
Her sisters had fallen. Her surviving comrades were either cobbling together a defense around Guadalcanal or protecting the convoys crossing the Atlantic, keeping their allies and expeditionary forces alive, while they slowly rolled the Germans back across North Africa.
Yeah, I'm gonna occupy a whole Friday stream because I had jobless activities. Damn straight. This a damn near 6-hour long series and it's only 4 parts, lol. So true. Oh, sorry.
In fact, even as her dearest friend, USS Vestal, and her long-suffering crew of mechanics and CBs were getting to work repairing her, a large amphibious operation began in what was then called French West Africa.
Wait, let's roll back for a few seconds, because I think I lost myself.
Comrades were either cobbling together a defense around Guadalcanal, or protecting the convoys crossing the Atlantic, keeping their allies and expeditionary forces alive, while they slowly rolled the Germans back across North Africa. In fact, even as her dearest friend, USS Vestal, and her long-suffering crew of mechanics and CBs were getting to work repairing her, a large amphibious operation began in what was then called French West Africa, codenamed Operation Torch, with the goal of finally encircling and destroying Rommel's deadly Africa Corps, which had been making life exceedingly difficult for the better part of 2 years. However, of even greater concern was the advance of the Japanese. The Battle of Santa Cruz had been extremely costly for both sides, but it was clear that the Americans had come off far worse.
Yeah.
Losing Hornet was a devastating blow, both materially and psychologically, to everyone concerned. But thankfully, the crew and most of her aviators had survived, and many of whom were even now aboard Enterprise regrouping. And as a result of being the only carrier still in harm's way against the advancing Japanese, the crew aboard Grey Ghost hung a sign in the hangar bay. In bold letters it proudly read, Enterprise versus Japan. Overall, though, the situation was not looking good. Uncle Sam's misguided children had managed to hold off against the advancing Japanese Army and Navy landing forces, and they had done pretty well up to this point. But until new Crayon Crusaders arrived from Paris Island, manpower was to this point. But until new Crayon Crusaders arrived...
Crayon Crusaders! Oh my god, that's a name. That's a name of all time, right here.
From Paris Island, manpower was going to be limited, while the lion's share of supplies were heading to support the aforementioned Operation Torch. Meanwhile, the Tokyo Express was bringing in reinforcements to the Japanese garrison on the island.
And that's the beauty of our naval logistics in the Second World War. Just because we lost the ship itself doesn't mean we lost experienced crews. True. And here I thought there couldn't be a better name for damn devil dogs. So true.
Who are now reorganizing for yet another offensive to take Henderson Field.
Sorry about that.
Their previous assault had been a bloody failure, being brutally repulsed by Chesty and his men, resulting in the loss of half of their force. But with the advantage of having lots of forward bases nearby, a squadron of fast destroyers able to run down the slot in one night, as well as a military tradition reminiscent of a marketing strategy for overpriced miniatures.
What is your duty? To serve the Emperor's will. What is the Emperor's will? That we fight and die.
Damn.
What is death? It is our duty.
Would it be weird if I say it looks oddly accurate to the actual Japanese of World War II? Like, I was just thinking about it. The Japanese of World War II were beyond crazy. Like, they were an absolutely formidable force. So, you know, that's Warhammer 40k shit. Yeah, such an accurate analogy, lol. Yeah, like, terrifyingly accurate.
Manpower wasn't much of a problem. What was a problem was firepower.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that the Cactus Air Force, in typical Marine Corps fashion, violently assaulted anything with a red circle on it, this unfortunately included Royal Australian Air Force aircraft on more than one occasion, hence why we changed our roundel to the one without a dot in it. Honestly, when taken as a whole, actually, the Marines kind of remind me of this TV show when I was a kid. It was called The Big Knights.
Wait a second! Is that show is made by the same studio that makes Peppa the Pig? Wait, are you kidding me? Is that the same studio? Oh goodness, get that away from me!
Sir Boris, finest swordsman in the world, and his brother, Sir Modest, not the finest swordsman in the world, but...
Let that sink in. The Aussies had to change their logo on their planes because of our Marines. See a red dot in the center of a white area that is inside a blue circle. Now never mind, that's the Japanese. Ice them. Jesus Christ.
The most enthusiastic.
Yep. A small cadre of professionals leading a group of mentally challenged but highly enthusiastic killing machines. They are a menace to civilization, but they are our menace, and I ask you, where would we be without them?
Definitely in a black hole without them. After the anti-press video, I wanna mention a fun topic I talked with a friend on a walk 2 days ago. What kind of a walk? Oh goodness. Jesus. Sounds interesting what you got cooking, yeah. Yeah, very interesting.
Anyway, where was I? Ah yeah, Marine aviators. The Marine aviators in question kept blasting ships that sailed down the slot during the daylight hours. And the Japanese had finally started to learn that fighting Marines head-on is not an intelligent move.
Yeah, very unintelligent, especially considering that the Marines don't know what they are facing. I can send the message now and you'll get your answer. Send it. Send it!
And that they would fight just as hard as their most zealous of troops. Worse still, they had problems of their own. While the Americans had been losing ships they couldn't afford, at least in the short term, and suffering heavy casualties on land and in the air, dislodging the Americans from their positions on Guadalcanal would take more than the resources they had on hand. Without
I will read it right now. By the way, not sure if this is real, but me and my friend had a dilemma on a walk. Yes, an enthusiastic walk. He talked about what happens to people when they drove through Bnei Barak on a weekend, and we started to wonder what would happen if a ex-Devil Dog / Crayon Crusader that is now a construction crew worker and trucker drove his truck through there and they tried to pull some shit. Damn. Wait, Bnei Barak? Bnei Barak, wait, it sounds familiar. Bnei Barak is in a town or an area or something. Wait, it's got... That's asking for a death sentence, nothing more. Yeah. Yeah, that's asking for a death sentence.
Without heavy artillery, air support, and a lot of armor, their chances of winning this fight were practically zero. The Army High Command, therefore, petitioned Yamamoto to get a task force together to clear the way for a convoy. This convoy...
Also, I heard from from friend is that they are uber religious idiots who will try and murk people for doing shit they ain't supposed to do on a weekend. Oh. Yeah, if they face a former devil dog, yeah, they are toasted. Like, the only thing I can imagine be ever close to be as scary as an American Marine, it's probably an Israeli Golani soldier. Oh hell no, that's a definite death sentence, no question. Yeah. Like, the only thing that is remotely can be as terrifying as the Devil Dog is an Israeli Golani forces. And that's because those are the most retarded soldiers that the IDF is putting into one big group. So it brought up the topic of what would happen if a guy like that drove his truck through there and they threw a stone at the truck. Fucking 15 Medusas on each side and around 10,000 rounds of 50 cal ammunition inside the truck spawn out of nowhere, fucking. And the Marine says, "Hoorah!" And with that one yell, immediately, all the mountains are turning into even fields. With blood. Just like that. No matter if there's a building of two, no matter if there's the entire city, everything gets leveled. The conclusion was there won't be any more Bnei Barak anymore. Exactly. Well, the question is if the truck is a civilian model or a military model, because if it's a military model, then you're gonna get deleted with a dial-up lol. With a dial-up lol. Long live the Mark 19. The heater of the explosive canteen. Oh, that's a decent rhyme. Now, work truck. Then you are getting the M250 cars, the Medusas.
Convoy was to be filled to the brim with the heavy...
Basically, the ex-Devil Dog is on the clock. Bingo.
The Army High Command, therefore, petitioned Yamamoto to get a task force together to clear the way for a convoy. This convoy was to be filled to the brim with the heaviest equipment they could muster, in the hope that if they could get their gear onto the island along with some ammo, the Tokyo Express could then get the men there to use it. It would take the bulk of their available surface force and all of the air power available in the region, primarily coming from their bases on Rabaul, with a smaller contingent from the aircraft carrier Junyo, which was hanging around. But, in keeping with Japanese doctrine of decisive battle, the idea was to focus all of their combat power in a single hammer blow.
Oh. Then it's gonna be accuracy by volume with the Meduse. Yeah. Oh, by the way, unrelated, but we got a new fluff at home. Fluff? Wait. You mean you got a puppy or a kitten? Huh? It's a black and white British cat. Oh, wait, the one with the short hair? Oh, they are so adorable. They are perfect. Nearly perfect.
Their combat power in a single hammer blow.
Oh, Catlal, I was like, what's a floof? Yeah, I also wondered for a second. Like, what can be fluffy? A dog and a cat. Or maybe a lion. If you're brave enough.
If this succeeded in defeating the Allied naval presence in the region, they could then use their warships to obliterate Henderson Field and gain air supremacy, paving the way for a massed assault to retake Guadalcanal. Yamamoto readily approved of the plan. Given the loss of Carrier Division 5's air wings as well as the destruction of his light carrier forces, he had to operate within the range of his land bases anyway.
She's feisty because she has given us, but because she was given to us, but Ma's friend who's probably couldn't give her enough attention and wanted to give her away to people who could. And yes, pretty short hair, I think. Her fur is incredibly soft. Nice. By Ma's friend. Okay, got it. Let's get back to the video.
And removing the Americans from Guadalcanal would seriously improve their position in the region, even if it meant detailing assets to support the army, something which all Japanese naval officers despised doing. There was also the other factor, though, to consider. The factor which every nation that fights the United States has to contend with.
Production.
They were on a time limit. The Americans have enough logistical and material capacity to swamp Japan. In fact, they were already beginning to do so. After the reversal at Midway and the loss of Guadalcanal, they needed to score some victories and secure a perimeter while keeping their forces alive.
That's actually a very wholesome reason to get the new cat. I have much respect for those who realize they can take care of an animal and decide to give them to those who can. Yeah, I respect it too. Like, absolutely, I can understand it. Like, this is a great reason.
They had gotten off to a good start as they had defeated the Americans at the Battle of Santa Cruz. What they needed to do now was capitalize on that success and regain the initiative. And so, Admiral Yamamoto put his plan into motion to do exactly that. As November 1942 began, the 7,000 men of the 38th Infantry Division boarded their transports as the heavy equipment was loaded into the cargo holds. Artillery, tanks, trucks, heavy mortars, and all the food and fuel they would ever need. 11 fully loaded heavy tonnage cargo vessels packed to the mast, as Imperial Japan was not exactly known for the consideration of its soldiers' well-being. So, yeah, it was standing room only on this bitch. There were no do-overs at this point, no take-backs. They would either prevail or perish. And Admiral Yamamoto knew, as he pondered his shogi board, failure here would doom any hope of going on the offensive in the future. And not only that, without a position of strength, they wouldn't have any hope of negotiating a peace. And in a war against the United States, that only ever has one ending. A funeral pyre for his empire.
Oof.
So everything he could provide to this offensive...
The fuck? Okay, record button hit. Apparently we had a little bit of a scuff apocalypse right here. Holy fuck, I am never touching anything related to Kaspersky again during a stream. Because I don't want that to happen again. My OBS had got resetted because I restarted my PC. Like, what the fuck, man? Okay. Hopefully we are back to where we left off. Let's go.
Yamamoto knew, as he pondered his shogi board, failure here would doom any hope of going on the offensive in the future. And not only that, without a position of strength, they wouldn't have any hope of negotiating a peace. And in a
Japanese of World War II and peace. Unit 731 and Nankin are saying hello there, fucking peace. Hey, better to find out in a React stream than a game in a collab or something. True, but it would be even better to find it in your free time.
In a war against the United States, that only ever has one ending. A funeral pyre for his empire. So everything he could provide to this offensive, he would. The Solomons Island Channel was too shallow for the flagship.
Wait, what ship is that? Is that the Yamato? Why the hell is there just so much, like, turrets and cannons just in such close proximity to one another? True, yeah, true. Like, is that normal for a World War II battleship? Like, I don't know, I never saw that. And is that a cannon on top of a cannon right here? What the hell? Oh, that is so weird to look into that from the perspective of somebody who never seen like a battleship up close. Huh? The hell?
You thought I was going to do it, didn't you?
Oh god, let me rewind that back for a second.
Empire. So everything he could provide to this offensive, he would. The Solomons Island Channel was too shallow for the flagship.
That's the joke! That's the anti-air battery, Alex, anti-secondary battery. Ah, alright.
You thought I was going to do it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Don't worry, though. She'll come back for her last hurrah in part 4. So anyway,
Oh, really?
without Yamato and Masashi, it would be the Kongo class that were going to lead the charge, and they were going
Kongo?
to be under command of Admiral Hirooke Abe. The
Look
flagship
at
of the
the
task
moustache.
force would be the battleship Hiei, flanked by her sister ship, the battleship Kirishima. They would be joined by the cruiser Nagara and a destroyer flotilla of 11 ships. And leading that particular flotilla was the Yukikaze, the luckiest ship in the Japanese Navy.
Why they like
With the
yes?
destruction of Hornet, and most of the battleships being still at the bottom of Pearl Harbor, the odds
Hold up. Why the luckiest? Like, what? She did not get to witness Enterprise's wrath? Or what?
was the Yukikaze, the luckiest ship in the Japanese Navy. With the destruction of
Alright.
Hornet, and most of the battleships being still at the bottom of Pearl Harbor, the odds were in their favor. Or so it appeared. But there was one issue with this plan. The same issue there always is with Japanese plans. A secret plan only works if it's, well, a secret.
Secret. Yeah.
And thanks to the Intel basement dwellers on Oahu in the Hypo room, this plan was not a secret. Admiral
Thank
Chester
God.
Nimitz and his subordinates were viewing the intelligence reports while gazing with trepidation at their maps. Admiral Halsey, now back in action, was in his normal mood
Halsey!
of wanting to sail directly to
Thank God Halsey is okay, and let me check up my microphone settings. I have to make sure that everything is fine here. And everything is fine, thank God.
truck with his entire surface force in action, was in his normal mood of wanting to sail directly to truck with his entire surface force in order for him to challenge Yamamoto to a one-on-one fistfight on the dock. But given the situation and the aforementioned super battleships lurking in open waters nearby, such a course would not be advisable.
Yeah.
Even so, with the intelligence that the Japanese were getting ready to mount a serious effort once again to try and take Guadalcanal for one last time, it was decided that if the enemy wanted to force a decisive
No, the ads. I'm so sorry, Jake. I'm so sorry. Don't worry. Hopefully I will meet you in a minute. Or you know what? It may be a great opportunity for me to take a break. Oh, now back to the video. For some reason I pressed stop recording instead of the pause button. Whatever. I will stitch it somehow in the editing.
battle, the Solomons were the place to do it. After all, their
Okay.
carriers were under refit and resupply,
Well, that worked out beautifully with then. Yeah.
while the super battleships can't engage here. With the Cactus Air Force to offer air cover during the day, and the new US battleships equipped with radar sets to handle night fighting, the equation was far more balanced than their previous surface engagements.
Huh, really?
In any case, Chesty's boys needed reinforcing.
A lot.
And so, from every source they could draw, more Marines were rounded up, contained, desexed, and dog-tagged for our safety.
Wait. Desexed. What does desexed means? Oh. Sterilized. What? You can sterilize a marine? Do you realize how stupid this is? You're basically make the marine dysfunctional. Lol, I love that long G. That long G means castration. Oh, yeah. Why would you castrate a marine? Don't you understand that his functionality as a soldier purely relies on his balls of steel? Like you took away his balls. He cannot do nothing anymore. What? You dumbass.
And even more amazingly, the army were following on behind with their heavier gear, as well as their own air group. As with Midway before, it was determined that should the Japanese attempt to take the real estate they paid so much for, it would cost them an incredible amount of interest. And the worst part for the Japanese is that all of this was done in advance of their departure. Once again, the Americans had set a trap, and they were ready to meet their foe on even terms. But I don't think either side had any idea just how badly this was going to go for everybody involved.
Wait, really? Oh god. Operation Bumpy, finding the enemy by bumping into them. Oh my god. Oh, that will be so funny and stupid. Lol, we are set in another fun trap, lol. Long live Admiral Murphy.
As the newly arrived devil dogs dug in alongside their GI brethren, for as we all know, apes together are strong,
Very.
the Japanese task force had put to sea.
Oh, hey, welcome back, Rainbow. This scuff is over. You're back here, I am back. This scuff is over.
The battleships had been issued with special incendiary fragmentation shells. Similar to how modern cluster munitions are designed, their purpose was to critically damage aircraft and light vehicles while igniting munitions and fuel storage. Perfect for bombarding an airfield. The Japanese, still convinced that all was going to plan, or all according to Kaikaku, for those of you who are indulgent in weeb memes, proceeded down the Solomons Island channel. However, after today, that Solomon Islands channel would earn a different name.
And that
Iron
is...
Bottom Sound.
Oh.
You know, I would say spoiler alert, but given the track record of battles in these specific waters, you have all probably worked out how this is going to go. But believe me,
not pretty.
calling what's coming up a mere shit show will be like me calling the American Civil War a slight disagreement over domestic policy. This is more of a septic tank through a steam turbine scenario. As the 12th of November was coming to an end with a glorious Pacific sunset, an American recon aircraft spotted the Japanese task force, radioing its position, which was immediately reported to the American task force commander, one Admiral Daniel Callahan. He immediately ordered his force on an intercept course. Sailing in column past Henderson Field, his force consisted of 2 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, and 8 destroyers. His flagship was the San Francisco, while the other...
I love how Pac-Man describes shit, lol. Pac-Man? Wait, who the hell is Pac-Man? Wait, is that Dallahan?
Cruisers in the formation were Portland,
Callahan, sorry.
Helena, Juneau, and Atlanta. But despite appearances, those cruisers, they aren't the true heavy hitters. For with him, he had one ship. One beautiful, magnificent...
Animarchy is Pac-Man. Oh, okay, now that makes sense.
...ship, who we shall meet at the most opportune moment. Though leading the destroyers was none other than a lead ship in class, USS Fletcher. Given the balance of forces, as well as the fact they had the speed advantage and prior knowledge of the Japanese position and radar, it would seem that
I found some pretty good specific GC name in the last 10 minutes. Wait, what? Alright.
the Americans were in place for a sneaky nighttime ambush. But alas, Grand Admiral Murphy of the JAG office was well and truly present.
Group chat
What
names.
can go wrong, will go wrong. And tonight, this guy was head of the prosecution. Admiral Callahan, despite having all of the aces up his sleeve, did not brief his senior officers of a plan, nor did he establish a concrete standard operating procedure for their rules of engagement.
What?
Which meant that he would have to coordinate the operation completely on the fly via micromanagement, or simply rely on the captains of each ship to...
So you're telling me so this is the equivalent of you're taking the wheel of a plane. You're boarding a plane. The pilot is fresh new pilot who wasn't even trained on it. It's a fucking he's now they told him you're now piloting an F4 Phantom and you have now training fucking wing it. Oh, by the way, nobody will tell you what a certain button will do. I must send them in a minute. Alright. My god. This is about to be beyond a shit show. It will be an entire Russian circus.
to take a leaf out of their aviation colleague's book and wing it. And they were to do all of this in the middle of the night. But wait, he's not done. The Americans, with the newer cruisers and destroyers in the formation to support the older ships, should have constant range and bearing updates to plan around. As I mentioned, they have radar. Problem was, for whatever reason, Callahan had the radar-equipped vessels at the back of the formation instead of the front.
Now that's dumb, and this is where the Luffy makes her first appearance, lol. Oh, thank God, Luffy.
Again.
Give me the Luffy.
In the middle of the night. I don't know what his plan was, But as the previous bit indicates, he probably didn't have one. Thankfully, American naval radar is actually outstanding and it has great range, so it would still give them an edge. It's just that they've lost 20 minutes of situational awareness they'd otherwise have.
Oh,
So yeah, the American camp looks pretty shoddy and all around terrible from this perspective, and it was really bad on this particular evening. But they weren't the only ones having problems. Admiral Abe
Really?
was, in typical Japanese Navy fashion, operating under a far more complex battle plan in confined quarters at midnight with a timetable to keep. Now, it must be said here again, the Japanese surface fleet until the latter stages of the war were some of the finest sailors of their day. Their training and discipline was matched only by their ferocity. It's why
Damn.
when the US Navy got into a gun range, 9 times out of 10 it was the Japanese who prevailed.
Jesus. And at night in a naval engagement, 20 minutes is an insane amount of time to lose. Yeah. Like, in any type of engagement, 20 minutes, it's fucking eternity.
It's ironic that, considering that the Japanese were in fact the ones to pioneer carrier aviation to what we know it as today. But alas, in such a conservative traditionalist society, the fleet faction won out. But as we know, that traditionalism was no match for the changing of the times. The Allies as a whole were modernizing, using technology to augment their forces as part of a steel not flesh policy, which is why Allied casualties were a lot lower than all the other major combatants like the Japanese, the Soviets, and the Germans. While the Japanese primarily focused on training and proven methods. This is a really fine balancing act, but when you match that technical superiority with the raw industrial might of the United States, you create something that's nigh on unstoppable.
Yeah.
The Japanese vessels did not have much radar to speak of, if any at all. They relied completely on night sights, spotlights, and basic communication, as well as extensive nighttime training drills for night battles that the Japanese crews were well proficient in. But it doesn't change the fact that they were attempting to conduct a complex night operation under near radio silence in confined waters. And when it couldn't get any worse, they hit a rain squall. The Japanese split up into multiple little groups, thereby breaking that formation entirely. They don't have a formation anymore. This was a terrible situation. And then, say it with me now, ladies and gentlemen,
And
it got worse.
It's true, all we needed was time and we would have won even if it took longer. True.
Through the darkness, as they broke out of the rain squall, the lookouts on Hiei noticed shadows in the distance, contrasted against the dark indigo horizon. Meanwhile, on the USS San Francisco, Admiral Callahan had been getting panicked reports from his radar operators about Japanese ships that had popped up out of nowhere.
Oh.
Due to the myriad of blunders on both sides, the two groups were, in naval terms at least, right on top of one another. Admiral Callahan didn't believe the radar and wanted to clarify the range. They couldn't possibly be this close. He was originally planning to cross the T of the Japanese formation, but there were not one, but several groups of Japanese ships moving independently.
Several
Abe,
groups.
meanwhile, had a different problem. He had no issue engaging the Americans. In fact, this was a great opportunity. Problem was, his battleships were configured for shore bombardment with the special cluster munitions, not armor-piercing and high-explosive for gunfighting enemy ships. If his rounds were to be fully effective, he'd have to pull the heavies back to reload.
Apex chat. Oh, yeah, I see that. Give me a second. Here are the names. Seaman Gang, 13 reasons to use condoms, and our condoms may have broken, but we have awakened. Jesus Christ. Rainbow. Yep, remember the rain squad, the split the Japanese up. That will be a nightmare to deal with.
Which would put the Nagara and her destroyers in a really tough situation.
I found another one.
After giving it some thought, he decided to do what almost all Japanese commanders do.
Rosa Parks Battle Pass. Sadly for me, I have no idea about the history of Rosa Parks. Like, what the hell happened there? I like that last one, lol. If only my innocent soul knew that reference.
When in doubt, attack. otherwise known as default.
Right, isn't the same goes when in doubt bottoms out or whatever? My god, I found one worse. Oh, there's worse?
Aggressive.
Oh, well, who am I kidding? Roll 35 of the internet. Oh, sorry, 36 of the internet. There's always something worse.
The Japanese turned into the Americans and advanced. Seeing this, Callahan ordered his ships to do complex maneuvers to match the Japanese ships. But due to not having briefed his commanders the night before on what their roles or even their designations were, no one had a clear idea what was happening, and so the US formation broke up just as the Japanese formation had done.
Give me a second. Fucking burping. High as a kite, don't put up a fight. Diddle will fight you tonight. Gay dinosaurs we are. Jesus. Oh, trust me, I guarantee we ain't even scratched the surface yet. Oh, fucking hell.
With the American ships moving to meet the Japanese ships in their own little groups. All the while, on both sides, the captains of these vessels were frantically sending signals to their respective commanders, asking, please, for the love of God, let us shoot. And both sides gave orders.
Here goes another name. Gordon Ramsay. Jesus, Rainbow. Jesus. Holy shit.
To hold fire. This
The fiddlers that diddle. I found this randomly. Please do not randomize yourself that way.
And both sides gave orders to hold fire. This continued until both formations were now intermingled. You heard me correctly. The lead US vessels had to evade in order to prevent collision with the Japanese ships. The distances to targets were now 3,000 yards. What we had was a Mexican standoff while in the middle of the Solomon Islands at 1 a.m. on November 13th, 1942.
Jesus. I ain't in any of these groups, just lol. I just find these names from people who tell them. Damn.
It was then that Abe made his move. He had closed the range in order to envelop the American formation, while simultaneously ensuring that his main guns, armed with the special frag ammunition, had the best chance of doing critical damage. Hiei spotlights flashed on, illuminating USS Atlanta at point-blank range.
Oh, shit.
Ute!
Fire.
Shells began flying from the Japanese ships at the Americans. This initial volley was followed by a barrage of torpedoes.
The internet has some very twisted and dark corners. I used to watch videos about the darknet once. Yeah. It ain't pretty, just saying.
Atlanta's superstructure was immolated, while a torpedo shattered her engineering section. She came to a dead stop, adrift and burning, unable to retaliate against the swarm of enemy ships around her.
She got one-shotted.
She would sink later that day. Meanwhile, the Americans instinctively returned fire at the nearby Japanese ships. The destroyer Akatsuki, which was the lead vessel that illuminated Atlanta, was the nearest target, and it was currently lit up like a Christmas tree. What amounted to the entire American cruiser flotilla and the lead destroyers fired on her all at once.
Damn.
Akatsuki took a hit in her magazine and exploded in a ball of flame, which lit up the surrounding area.
Damn.
Marines on Guadalcanal saw the fight in progress. Robert Leckie was among them. His recount is shown briefly in the TV series The Pacific. That huge explosion in this scene is most likely the Akatsuki. She was quickly followed in this fate by the US destroyer Cushing, who had been the lead ship and was now in the middle of the entire Japanese formation. She got blasted by all the Japanese ships in range. Coming to a dead stop, completely crippled, she kept firing her guns until her main power failed. She too sank later that day. All the while this was happening, Admiral Callahan kept giving confusing orders. He ordered odd ships to fire starboard, and even ships to fire port. The only problem is he hadn't briefed anybody on which ship was which, and who they were supposed to be shooting at.
Oh,
He then gave course orders,
that's shitty.
which no one could follow because no one had any idea where they were anymore. Their formation had basically ceased to exist.
I would highly recommend The Pacific if you haven't watched it yet. It is an absolute banker of a series. I will have to watch it because it's interesting. Like, I'll be honest. Back in high school, we were barely taught about the actual battles of World War II. Like even the European ones. Like in the school, we were being taught only about the Holocaust, Stalingrad, and shit. Like the super simple, some super short stuff. Like I never knew what's Operation Torchlight. We were never taught about fucking D-Day. Like that's how bad it was. Like that's how little I know, and I knew before the first electrician. Like I have a lot to catch up to. That's one to watch on your own time as well. Good idea. Oh hey, new name found. Council of Autism. That one would fit us as well. Yeah. The Council of Autism. The main prosecutor, Julian, Jake, and Rainbow. Or whatever. Counselor Rainbow. Please stand up. Ethnicity checklist. That's a new one. Wait. Did you take that from Grandpa Buff's daily checklist? This TISM council is now called to order. Jesus.
And thus, everyone just swirled around in a melee, trying to work out what to do.
Well, two new names on Diddy's Dick Pickles. Diddy's Disciples, sorry. And Nightskin and the Napkin Knights. Jesus. And nah, I just found the name randomly. Jesus Christ.
While shooting everything they had at whatever target they could find.
Oh my god.
This was the kind of fight
We're never getting to heaven.
their formation had basically ceased to exist. And thus, everyone just...
Did you get what the second name meant, Typex? Nightskin and the Napkin Knights. No. Honestly, no, I didn't.
swirled around in a melee, trying to work out what to do.
Oh my god.
While shooting everything they had at whatever target they could find. This was the kind of fight...
Black people and the trip and the KKK. Nightskin and the Napkin Knight. Jesus Christ, Rainbow! What the hell, man? What the hell? Hell no! And the coin, and the coin dropped. And the smoke detector, bleeped. He finally realized.
Japanese had trained their whole careers for, and they soon started to gain the upper hand.
Oh my god.
The American sailors weren't their equal here. And what's worse, they would very soon be within katana range.
Oh.
It was then that the worst case scenario appeared.
Here's a new one. League of No Dads. Wait, you mean League of the Fatherless? That's called Dota 2. Just saying.
Out of the darkness, a huge...
Oh fuck, that's an evil now. That's an evil one. Wait, another one. One night at Did. Are Are you ready for daddy? Oh my god. Jesus. That would be Five Nights at Reddit. The mamas and papas. The mamas and no papas lol. Yeah. Five Nights at Mommy's. I had to say it.
Huge bank of searchlights cases.
Can we go back to the video, please? Found two more. The League of Meatball Enabled Individuals and the Arson Trio. God, Five Nights at Mommy's sounds like a dream to come true. So true, yeah. Unless those are cookers. Take a break for now, Rainbow. Yeah, take a break, please. Otherwise we will never get out of this video. Like, this video will take us 3 hours. From this point.
Scenario appeared. Out of the darkness, a huge bank of searchlights illuminating targets for her massive guns, came the flagship Hiei. Abe was tearing towards USS San Francisco, which he had identified as the biggest ship and obviously the command ship, given where it was in what was left of the American formation. It was then...
We can start back up during the next video. Yeah, we can. Especially considering that the next video is about a torpedo attack that has the habit of sucking.
Something incredible happened. A battle cry yelled from the darkness.
Huh?
A more ferocious call to arms than any samurai could muster. Alright, chumps, let's do this!
Oh my god.
USS Laffy!
Okay, last one, Rainbow, last one. I found 2 more and that's it, I hope. Charlie Kirkling's TT Party. Jesus Christ, that name has to delete itself. And someone said they are in a group chat of all women called Fanboy Gooners. Jesus fucking Christ. The first one is absolutely horrific. Yeah, it's like, the first one needs to delete itself immediately. Like, Alt F4, fucking delete the Minecraft world of that thing. Like, on the fucking spot. And the second one, I made a reaction about fanboys. It's fucking terrifying.
Destroyer USS Laffy closed in
Come
between
on,
the
Laffy!
cruisers and Hiei, getting within, and I shit you not, 20 feet of the Japanese battleship. So close that not even her secondary guns could track the destroyer.
Jesus. Funny enough, I was in a group chat called Epstein Island, made for a Minecraft server. Jesus. The second one is hilarious, yes. And reaction about what? But about fanboys. It's called Fanboys Are Freaks. You can look into it later.
Laffy unleashed everything she had. The barrels on her AA guns and her 5 inches nearly melted, while men on the decks were firing with machine guns and rifles. It wouldn't surprise me if they even had bayonets on. Hiei's superstructure was obliterated. Admiral Abe was wounded as his chief of staff was instantly killed by shrapnel from Laffy's assault.
Damn. Not really interested in seeing any fanboy-related content. Fair. Fully fair.
But as with the meme that inspired the opening of this paragraph, Laffy's colleagues, seeing her dive into the maelstrom without fear, decided, screw it, we'll all go in too. The American destroyers went full send and closed in on Hiei, firing everything.
Can't blame me, Rainbow. That shit can get fully unhinged. And unhinged it was. Just saying. Like, about fanboys. The one thing I have learned from that video is that fanboys have the habit of putting monster can into their anus. Those words should have never come out of my mouth. I don't doubt that at all, but I don't wanna watch stuff like that, cause they kinda weird me out. Well, I guess what, that will weird you out right now. Like the entire thing about them. Yeah, exactly.
While the cruiser squadron fired on her as well over the heads of their comrades. The American destroyers went full send and closed in on Hiei, firing everything, while the cruiser squadron fired on her as well over the heads of their comrades. Hiei's crew, though, realizing that there was nothing to be done about the destroyers as they were inside minimum torpedo range, decided to kill the American flagship.
What?
While all this was going on, Hiei pummeled San Francisco, killing Admiral Callahan,
Oh.
while other Japanese ships tried to cover their own flagship, blowing Laffy to pieces. However, Laffy has a spirit that never dies.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I've just been unwillingly subjected to some of that shit. Jesus Christ, Jake. I feel so sorry for you.
And we shall see her again. In the chaotic firefight that followed, San Francisco hit Hiei's engineering spaces, flooding them, while she herself was dismantled shell by shell. Then long lances started flying, crippling or outright obliterating American ships.
Hold up. I've seen that, Rainbow. And if someone calls me a hypocrite for liking tomboys and muscle mommies, nobody will. I will shove my boots so far up their ass, they'll see my shoelaces from their mouth. Listen. We do appreciate some mummies and muscle mummies. Oh, sorry, tomboys and muscle mummies. We love them. We want to hug them. They are the best. So no need for that.
They tried to fight back.
Hold up. Everyone has their own preferences. I want Shinto the up for that. Me neither. I love them too.
Crippling or outright obliterating American ships. They tried to fight back, sinking the destroyers Amatsakaze and Yudachi, while damaging almost all the other vessels.
Fair enough, yeah.
But they were simply outmatched. Kirishima joined the fray, crippling 2 of the destroyers, while Nagara and the other destroyers wrapped back around. And it was at this very moment, for the first time that night, that both sides had a moment to breathe.
Yeah, I'll just defend certain hills till my dying breath, lol. We all will. We all have those.
The Americans were down to USS Fletcher and USS Helena, while the Japanese actually had most of their force still able to fight.
Oh, fuck.
But Abe, now receiving medical attention, was faced with a dilemma. Due to the surface action, he had expended a lot of his ammunition, as well as a lot of time. He could push on to Henderson Field, but that would mean shelling the field with only 1 battleship instead of 2, as Hiei...
And that I fully can agree with. We all have those hills we will die on. Yeah,
his flagship is now dead in the water. Not to mention that should preparations not be made immediately to launch recovery operations, it would be broad daylight before he could get his forces reorganized. And then there is the convoy coming down the slot behind him. If the surface force he just destroyed is dead, the airmen from Rabal and Junyo should be able to cover them as Atago and Takao can bring the convoy in. If he regroups with them along with Kirishima, he should be able to assert total surface dominance in the area. Admiral Abe, despite only having 2 American ships in his way that he could easily sink, decided that he was not equipped to take out Henderson Field, and thus he ordered his force to withdraw.
Thank God.
Once again, with victory so nearly in their grasp, a Japanese surface commander pulled back.
Yeah. Wait a second. Some of us even like a nice pair of heels, if you catch my drift. Oh, I do. And that I feel like can agree with. I mean, I'm one of those who is in the I want to date a Pixar mom camp, lol. Can I join the camp?
They stand to learn something from their aviators. Rule 2 of the Dictabolcas clearly states, once an attack is begun, you must see it through to the end. But then again, the man had just taken a bullet to the shoulder in the middle of a horrific close-in firefight, which cost him several ships and all of his ammo.
Funny enough, I heard a quote from someone about Pixar moms, yeah. We welcome all. Thank you.
Plus, he had absolutely no idea if the Americans had more ships, because, you know, no radar. So I
Yeah,
tend to
and
cut this
America.
man a bit of slack. Unlike a certain other admiral. As the sun rose, the aftermath could clearly be seen, with multiple burning hulks littering Iron Bottom Sound. Portland was still listing and burning. However, upon sighting remaining Japanese destroyers, she fired what guns were still operable, while evacuations took place on both sides.
Damn.
Hiei, meanwhile, was under tow to safety. Yamamoto had ordered the convoy to regroup with the surviving vessels from the previous night, which meant they had to delay their run down the slot in preparation for making a night landing. However, they had failed to hit Henderson Field, their primary objective. Damage control teams aboard Hiei were struggling to restore power. Admiral Abe requested air support to cover the convoy from the Cactus Air Force, who would almost certainly now be on their way. Junyo, the carrier who was at sea 200 kilometers north of the islands, scrambled her entire fighter force, as did Rabol. An entire wing of Zeros took station above the crippled battleship as she limped back to Truck Lagoon. But they wouldn't be enough, because the Marines were not the only ones hunting them.
Auntie! She's back!
Enterprise ready? Engage!
Wait. Why is now the English voiceover? Wait. I never... That's awesome.
Let's go.
My gamer juice is empty now.
The Grim Reapers descended on the Zeros.
Yes!
They had expected attacks from the Cactus Air Force, and
That's the anime English dub voice for Enterprise. Wait, Azur Lane has a full-fledged anime? I must watch it later.
they had weathered an attack from B-17s earlier in the day. What they hadn't reckoned on was USS Enterprise. The dogfight was relatively even, with casualties on both sides.
Yes,
but given the
nice.
loss of Carrier Division 5, between VF-10 and the Cactus Aviators, the Japanese pilots were outnumbered and steadily pushed back, leaving the way open for attack pilots to do their work. Shiny brand new TBF Avengers rolled in on the target. Hiei was crippled and unable to maneuver. Even so, she desperately tried, managing to evade all but one torpedo, which slammed into the main torpedo blister.
Nice.
The dive bombers likewise struggled to hit their target, dodging the second wave of Junyo Zeros while diving in. But 3 500-pound bombs from Enterprise's SBDs managed to flood Hiei's steering gear before they beat a hasty retreat. But the sturdy Congo class was still afloat, and as the dust settled from this opening salvo, the Japanese frantically worked to keep their ship alive, pumping the steering section and getting Hiei properly underway again. Admiral Abe, given the circumstances, ordered Captain Nishida to beach the battleship, but Nishida told him to go fornicate himself with his ceremonial sword and that he was going to save his ship. He still had some air cover, though limited, and his engineering team...
Wait, did his subordinate told to the Admiral, go fuck yourself, we are saving the ship? Wait.
Nishida told him to go fornicate himself with his ceremonial sword and that he was going to save his ship. He still
Damn.
had some air cover, though limited, and his engineering teams were getting the ship back to running condition. All they needed to do was to make it to the protective envelope of the air cover between Rabal and Truck, while being out of range of the Cactus Air Force. It wasn't an impossible task. At least it wouldn't have been, if not for the Grey Ghost. As the Japanese damage control teams finally got the steering repaired and the engines running, the lookouts began screaming the alarm.
Yep, this guy was not about to give up his ship. Respect to that man, to be honest. Even if he's Japanese, respect.
Under the depleted fighter screen, on the deck, at full power, with absolutely no fear, Enterprise's torpedo pilots thundered towards Hiei. 6 TBF Avengers in attack formation, lining up their shot. Escape was impossible. All the Japanese sailors could do was watch in horror as the long silvery wakes of torpedoes tracked
Sorry
towards
about that.
them. The Zeros
Fucking
dove in
cold.
at the last moment on the attackers, but it was far too late. 2 torpedoes slammed into Hiei's side. She was listing, and therefore these didn't hit the armor belt, but the waterline.
Ooh.
One in the aft quarter, and the other one once again into the stern, wrecking the steering compartment completely.
Huh.
After all of their hard work to save it, the crew's efforts were undone in a second. But the ordeal wasn't over. With the Zeros chasing the retreating torpedo planes, they weren't able to respond to the follow-up attack from Enterprise's Dauntless pilots, and they did what they did best. Bombing and strafing Hiei, emptying their guns into the superstructure and the bridge. Captain Nishida, even with bullets whizzing around him, remained at his post, refusing to take cover. He had fought valiantly. He had served as the Admiral's flag officer and ship commander. He had faced his enemy in mortal combat to the death. He would not run from this. But Admiral Abe had strict orders from Yamamoto. Hiei was to be abandoned but not scuttled. She was to serve as a distraction to the American aviators in order to draw fire from the approaching convoy. The crew was to be evacuated to the destroyer screen. However, Abe knew that Nishida wouldn't do it willingly, so he did the only thing an officer in the Imperial Navy...
07 to Captain Nishida, yeah. Fully 07. That he decided to go out as a boss.
...would have to answer to. Admiral Abe put the order to abandon ship in writing and sent it over in a cutter with his adjutant carrying it. Nishida, upon receiving it, was seen to be stoic but despondent. This was his ship. But orders from Yamamoto carry the Emperor's will. He was a Japanese officer sworn to follow those until death.
Damn. The man deserves the highest respect. He does. Like, fought to the end until being told, get your crew out of this ship, it's dying anyway. Like, he had to be told by Yamamoto himself that he must abandon ship. Say what you want, the man is stubborn as fuck.
He gave the order to abandon ship. Battleship Hiei would sink, taking 188 men of her crew to the bottom of Iron Bottom Sound.
Oh.
Captain Masao Nishida survived, but he took a staff job, bitter at the loss of his ship. And sadly for the Japanese, that sacrifice was in vain.
Oh.
Realizing that Hiei was a doomed ship given how much damage they had done, Enterprise...
Huh? The hell? What in the... Jake, can you check on YouTube if the YouTube stream is alright, please? Because it's telling me that there's an issue. Weird.
Enterprise and her Marine colleagues had received reports of the transport convoy now approaching.
We are seeing the Hiei as she sits on the ocean floor and... Yep. Huh. Alright.
Every single aircraft and every ounce of ordnance they could muster was brought online. Both NT and Henderson Field launched their entire force.
I couldn't find the direct quote, but from what I recall, the guy's answer to the question what it would take to live a full life was, I would like to be smothered to death by a woman shaped like a Pixar mom. Damn! You know, based.
Light was fading fast, and they had spent so much effort on Hiei, they couldn't let a second go to waste. What followed was a massacre. Rabaul was at the top end of the Solomons Island chain, while Junyo was still about 150 kilometers north of the islands. Their air groups had put up a good account of themselves earlier in the day. They were, after all, still the finest fighter pilots in the world at the time. But as with their adversaries in the RAF...
Weird. The YouTube site seems fine, Apex. Okay. Oh, and the warning went away. Weird. Very weird.
The problem with being one of the chosen few is that you keep getting fewer. And unlike the rest of the combatants in World War II, the Japanese pilot training programs were kept at their pre-war standards until things got properly desperate.
I'm back.
And it was far too late.
Jake.
And even then, they didn't have either the aircraft or fuel reserves to properly maintain what high training standard regimens they did have. As a result, replacements did not keep up with their losses. And those that did make it still had the same attritional conditions as their more
Of course,
experienced
no problem.
senpais.
Thank you.
The fact was, they just didn't have enough planes or pilots, and they were operating at a much higher range than the Americans. For the rest of the 13th of November and throughout the 14th, Enterprise and the Cactus Air Force flew sortie after sortie against the incoming convoy, and it was bordering on cold-blooded murder. The Grim Reapers and the Marines overwhelmed the Zeros, while SPDs and Avengers sent enough ordnance downrange that if you lined it up, you could probably walk to the convoy from their base at Henderson Field. 6 of the transports were sunk, while 1 more was heavily crippled, leaving only 4 of the transports to continue on. Most of the tanks, artillery, ammo, and most crucially of all, food, for the forces on Guadalcanal, were consigned to the depths of Iron Bottom Sound. Even so, the remaining men and equipment had to get through to keep the campaign alive. It was hoped that maybe they could keep the garrison going long enough to get another convoy through later in December. But as night fell on the 14th of November 1942, those dreams would be dashed. As the Japanese forces approached Guadalcanal to land their troops, an American surface squadron had arrived to reinforce the survivors of the previous night's engagement.
Hello.
The battle to come seemed to start exactly as the first one had. The Japanese, with a complex formation of multiple ships moving ahead of the convoy, managed to close in on the Americans, despite their superior radar. In the opening stages of the battle, they demolished the destroyer screen, sinking the 4 ships in it outright.
Damn.
However, unfortunately for them, there is a reason why they call it a screen.
Huh?
Charging through the gloom, 2 huge shapes came into view. Kirishima, along with Takao, Atago, and the destroyers, led by Iron Army, illuminated the lead ship and saw the USS South Dakota, a battleship armed with 9 16-inch guns.
Damn. Wait, South
The
Dakota.
Japanese-
Isn't that this South Dakota that that's supposed to be like equal to the Iowa class? Oh my god, that will be scary.
He's reacted just as the Americans had reacted to Hiei last night. Oh, shit! As
Yeah.
soon as the illumination came on, a barrage of 5-inch fire smacked into Iron Army in the superstructure, setting her ablaze immediately.
Oh my, yeah.
The Japanese returned fire, pummeling
It ain't just the South Dakota. It's even scarier, yeah?
South Dakota with everything they had. But for some reason, the guns on South Dakota weren't firing.
What?
But they had just taken fire. Where did that fire come from?
Oh god.
Something weird was going on.
After this video, I want to show you a quick funny Helldiver shot. Okay, no problems.
It turned out that the chief engineer aboard USS South Dakota had been troubleshooting an electrical fault, and as such he had disabled the breakers. However, this had one problem. If a surge happened, it would start a series failure and trip the safety on the electrical system. Which it did.
Which means the main 16-inch guns were not operational for the moment?
And as he had disabled the breakers, it ultimately meant that this would shut down power throughout the entire ship.
Oh.
Which it did.
Oh.
South Dakota was defenseless, which then, again, begged the question, where the hell did that 5-inch fire come from?
Oh. 16-inch cannons? Christ, who's the lucky bastard who was holding those? I have no idea, but South Dakota is still not the most powerful class of the battleship at all. Like, there's the Iowa class that has the same 16-inch guns, but they have more defense and more horsepower. But wait, if that wasn't South Dakota firing the guns, who was it? Wait. The Massachusetts was in the European theater, right? Who the hell was that? Wait. Let me think. It can be between... Wait a minute! Isn't that Washington? 16-inch cannon sounds like big cannons, like big cannons, yeah, very, very big. It's like over 420 millimeters. Like if we are talking in not landed on the moon numbers. So yeah, Wait, is that the USS Washington and the Willis Chang Lee?
As Takao and Atago laid into the target, Kirishima was firing her secondaries while reloading her main battery. And in all of this chaos, they had forgotten. When they were approaching, there were 2 shapes moving on them. Not just one. Oh no.
Oh no. Hello there.
At that precise
Are you USS Washington?
moment, Admiral Ching Lee
Knew it! I knew it! My de facto electrician experience strikes again. Oh, big cannon centering,
5
indeed.
times Olympic gold
And that's literally big cannons. Like, look at those cannons right here.
At that precise moment, Admiral Ching Lee, 5 times Olympic gold medalist in marksmanship and certified stone cold badass,
That has bad eyesight, mind you, when he took that Olympic medals.
ordered his ship, the battleship USS Washington, to open fire with a full broadside of all 9 of his 16-inch guns at a distance of 9,000 yards.
Damn. The most gangster battleship commander ever has entered the story. Yes!
Kirishima
Yes!
did not stand a chance. With South Dakota sailors cheering them on, Washington blew the Congo class apart like it was nothing. The analysis of Kirishima's remains several decades later showed so many hits it more resembles a scrap heap
Holy
coral reef
shit.
than a shipwreck.
Wait, did the Enterprise croak? Wait, what? We are probably getting to the Enterprise soon, but holy shit, the accuracy. Like, for the record, the red dots, it's the hits from 16-inch shells. Oh, she's still alive and well. Croak, another word for dying. Ah, okay. Now, Enterprise is alive and well, but look at the accuracy right here. Like, Washington, Ching Lee is one accurate bastard. Oh shit, indeed.
With the loss of their battleship, the Japanese turned tail and withdrew, scuttling Iron Army as they went. Though US losses were heavy, it would turn out to be a
Blew her apart is right. Yeah.
resounding victory. With the knowledge that 2 full-sized US battleships were tearing towards them, the remainder of the convoy ships beached themselves in the Japanese-held area of Guadalcanal, in the hopes of offloading their gear. But as the sun rose, they found out that the Americans had been watching them the whole time.
Huh?
The Marine artillerymen down the coast
All right.
blanketed the area in 105 shells, while the Cactus Air Force launched wave after wave of aircraft at the poor bastards still trying to unload their gear. The coup de grace, though, came as the destroyer USS Meade arrived on scene and blasted the transports with a withering barrage of 5-inch, rendering them flaming funeral pyres for the campaign. They hadn't had time to get their equipment off the ships, and so all they had achieved was to deliver 2,000 men without food, weapons, or supplies to an already starving garrison. The arrival of Enterprise and her detached battleship
Oh, here's the Enterprise, by the way. They forgot we still had Artie trained on them, lolly.
starving garrison. The arrival of Enterprise and her detached battleship escorts had quite literally decided the Battle of Guadalcanal.
Damn.
And once again, Enterprise had made history. She was the first to sink a fleet-class-sized vessel, the first to sink a full-sized fleet carrier, the first to sink multiple carriers in a single engagement, and now she had scored the US Navy's first kill on a battleship of World War II, and the first battleship sunk by the US Navy for over half a century.
Damn.
Enterprise just can't be stopped. In the Japanese camp, meanwhile, there was a sickening realization. Both the army commanders and Admiral Yamamoto knew. The Battle of Guadalcanal was lost.
Very lost.
So the question was now how to get their troops out alive for use in future battles. At the rate things were going, they were losing 50 men a day due to starvation, malnutrition-induced disease, malaria, and all the
Holy.
issues an unsupplied army suffers from. But the situation was even worse than they feared. Submarines and long-range recon aircraft had spotted large American troop movements, bringing what seemed to be an entire division of troops to relieve the now exhausted Marines who had fought a campaign that would go down in history as a legend. Even worse still, US Navy reinforcements were inbound, which included, of course, USS Enterprise. They were against the clock and knew it. In December, Emperor Hirohito authorized a complete withdrawal of Japanese forces from Guadalcanal by February, utilizing the Tokyo Express to make night runs to and from Rabaul to establish a new defensive line further up the Solomons.
Flannery just made me think Steam support are so Eldritch Horror mixed with Marines. I don't know how he did that. But that is scarily accurate for the Steam support. Like, they are crazy maniacs.
Problem is, of course, to get everyone out on time, they were going to need to make runs during the day as well, which, as you recall, is a very bad idea.
Very
so
bad.
they had to achieve air superiority of some kind, or at least air parity, to keep the Americans busy and off base enough to give them some breathing room.
Oh, goodness, I could... Notice he said the Emperor was not the Japanese High Command that authorized the withdrawal. The Emperor authorized. That has to be very bad if the Admiral has to say, okay, we need to get out of here.
Operation K was its name. The objective simple. Throw enough air power at the Cactus Air Force and US Navy to keep them busy in order to get the troops away via the Tokyo Express. As always, though, the Americans were listening. But for the first time in a long time, they completely misinterpreted the intelligence.
What?
Halsey and the gang read the Japanese build-up in the area as a sign of a renewed offensive, and thus threw everything they had into the region in order to draw the Japanese to a battle they could win.
Oh my. Oh my. There's about to be a one hell of a gigantic war crime in the making.
A troop convoy was dispatched in preparation for renewed landing, along with a reinforcing surface group full of cruisers and destroyers, augmented by escort carriers and supported by the Enterprise Task Force. The Japanese spotted the convoy escort force on the evening of January 29th, 1943, while intelligence sources reported the departure of the troop transports. Fearing that these were troops being brought to take advantage of their weakness instead of the defensive force they actually were, Rabaul scrambled their bombers to interdict them near Rennell Island at the entrance to the Solomons. As the sun began to go down, the combat air patrols covering the various task forces returned to their carriers. The Japanese bombers, however, being bombers, are all trained instrument flyers and pressed their attack at sunset.
Feel like I have to ask this. Do both of you know about the one, the only Let Me Solo Her? Yes, I do. What about you, Jake? Let me guess. You're about to mention the Hyuki video he made, right? I didn't see that video yet, but damn, if he really managed to do a video with Hyuki on 0 HP, like, he's a master in everything, I guess.
The Americans were taken completely.
The what video? The guy, Let Me Solo Her, made a Vuva video. I'm not sure, but I need more context. The guy from Elden Ring who is beating every boss possible, the hardest ones, without taking any damage. And he's always on call, like, if you are struggling with a boss in Elden Ring, call Let Me Solo Her, he will solo the most difficult bosses for you. And I'm in ads, lol. Damn, might be the time for me to take a break. He's always butt naked with a pot on his head, yeah. Okay, we are back, you know. Back from the ads, lol, and we will see. Oh, wait. Wait. Hold up, let me read. He's always butt naked with a... And what was that about him in the Vuva? No, I don't think. Wait, naked with a pot of head, do you mean saved from plants and Soviets? Dave, no. I have no idea what you're talking about, but the Hiroki video, he recently released a new video where he's completing the Phantom Pain, like the holograms. He's completing the holograms of Helvetia with Hiyuki, and he did not take any damage. Like, he released a video about it. So yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the video.
By surprise, sailing in column, unprepared for what was about to hit them. 32 Mitsubishi bombers, 16 G3Ms and 16 G4Ms swooped in on a torpedo run as a Jake recon aircraft dropped flares to mark their approach. Flak began lighting up the darkening sky as the first wave of 16 bombers pushed in.
And ain't no way he played Wuva. Yes, he did. He did. You can look up on his channel. He did play Wuva.
The destroyers and cruisers scattered, evading the torpedoes that followed, while claiming one of the bombers, which crashed in flames in the middle of their churning wakes. Believing this attack to be the only one, though, the commander of the escorts, Admiral Griffin, ordered the force to regroup, which put the cruisers in a compromising position just in time for the second wave of bombers to strike. Coming in at wave-top height, the G4Ms tracked in on one of the biggest ships they could see, the cruisers up front. The AA guns once again began blazing away, knocking down two of the bombers, including the flight...
Fuck my life, he actually did. See, I told ya. I told ya.
Lead. But this did not deter the Japanese as they released their torpedoes. One of the weapons slammed into USS Wichita, but luckily for the crew aboard it, it was a dud.
Oh,
for USS Chicago, however, there was no such reprieve. Two torpedoes slammed into her machinery spaces.
Pleasant surprise, yeah, very pleasant.
Her to a dead stop almost immediately, while killing a number of the crew.
Ow.
During the chaos, the Japanese beat a hasty retreat. Their job done for the evening. But rest assured, they'd be back tomorrow. Chicago was taken under tow as the Americans recovered their composure.
07 Chicago, yeah.
Enterprise, as a result of this, was ordered to link up fully with the formation and integrate the Grim Reapers into their combat air patrol to cover them all the way to Guadalcanal. Throughout the next day, January 30th, Japanese recon aircraft circled the various American task forces, tracking their movements in preparation to launch strikes in the afternoon. But every time they had tried to get precise locations, Enterprise's fighters chased them away. Even so, bases on New Guinea scrambled bombers, and 11 G4M Bettys made their way towards the US ships. At 1540, Enterprise's radar picked up the formation, along with the lead scout aircraft, and scrambled its alert fighters.
If the Grim Reapers are in the anime about military ships, they're likely a bunch of goth chicks, and I'm here for it. You know, I can see that. Like, imagine goth chicks with this capuchon and a gigantic scythe in their right hand. That would look like it would look perfect.
The Wildcats turned in towards the bombers, which appeared to be heading towards the carrier group. However, their true aims became apparent. The Bettys turned in on the wounded USS Chicago and her escorts, aiming to finish what their comrades from Rabaul had started. But this time, the Grim Reapers were waiting. As the bombers lined up their attack run, the combat air patrol descended on them. There were no Zeros to cover them, and as such, the Americans committed fully to the attack.
Nice. Just imagine them giving me incredible mental... Just imagining them is giving me incredible mental images. Yeah, I can say the same here.
The lead scout of the formation was sent down in a ball of flame, while the alert force of 10 Wildcats dove in on the attackers through their own anti-aircraft screen. 2 more bombers went down into the sea before they could deploy their torpedoes. But the attack run had been perfectly timed to evade the beat of the combat air patrol. However, it would cost them their lives. The remaining aircraft released their weapons, which began heading towards their target.
Oh god.
Having carried out their duty, all that remained was their fate. Which the...
Now, Rainbow, look up Yamato Musashi and Shinano from Azure Lane, that will make you break. True.
Having carried out their duty, All that remained was their fate, which the pilots of VF-10 helped them meet presently, tearing the unarmored Mitsubishis to shreds, scattering their wreckage across the surface of the water, along with the men inside. But their mission was complete.
A
A full volley of torpedoes slammed into USS Chicago, while an outlying torpedo heavily damaged USS La Valette.
Oh.
The cruiser was doomed at that very moment.
Wait, scratch Yamato, she's in the game yet. Yeah, I was about to ask you, Jake.
Her crew abandoned ship as the wounded destroyer limped away. The sinking of this ship took a whole squadron of bombers and their crews, but their psychological impact was far more important. Due to the increased air activity across the board, as well as this successful attack, American forces pulled back into the Coral Sea in preparation
still
for what they suspected
Well, there are still pictures. Yeah.
to be a new Japanese offensive,
Okay.
allowing the Japanese to successfully evacuate from
And good god, that's a goth chick with giant robot arms. Damn.
Guadalcanal and bring their naval forces safely back into their air defense umbrella. By February, the first major American campaign in the Pacific was over.
Apex, you gotta look at this. Which one, Shinano or Musashi? Like, I need to refresh myself. Y'all both should look up Bismarck, lol. Okay, give me a second. Let me remember what Musashi looks like. And damn, yeah, she looks. Alright, Musashi is the one with the oversized shoes, I remember now. And this. Yeah. Yeah, she looks gorgeous. But damn it, the oversized shoes are ruining everything. She's beautiful. Can't lie, the Shinano don't look all that pretty to me. They all look good. They all look very good. And Bismarck? Wait. Damn! That's Bismarck. Oh la. To each their own, as they say, yeah. And look at that. I'm pretty sure she is fond of BDSM. Just saying. One second. Oh, sweet Jesus, I found the full art of that. Oh, you sure did.
And while it wasn't a decisive victory, it was nevertheless an incredible one.
I have all three of them in my Azure Lane game, lol. Damn!
And it would not have been possible
Three-headed
without
metal
the brave
dragons,
men
yeah.
aboard the US Navy's
Oh,
finest
shit.
lady, USS Enterprise.
Mm.
Now it was the time to turn to a new offensive north. The Japanese had to be fully pushed out of the Solomons and New Guinea. However,
yeah.
to the north, storm clouds were brewing. A typhoon of Nippon steel was preparing to put to sea. Carrier Division 5 had re-equipped, and new carriers were entering service with combined fleet. The world's two largest warships were based in an anchorage akin to a fortress, staring down the world, daring all brave enough to do battle. And island after island had airfields being constructed.
And that's the best part, yes. Azure Lane is a gunner game, but also has some very badass art. Indeed.
Defended by thousands of battle-hardened soldiers, ready to die for their emperor rather than surrender. Enterprise, scarred by constant battles since the beginning of the war over a year ago,
I also have both Enterprise and Essex as well. Essex? Wait, what? What is Essex? Jake, would you like to explain Essex? You mean as in the Enterprise cvN 65, I believe? Or what? Just keep watching. Alright.
stood alone. Her hangar deck stood
Wait, what?
Enterprise, scarred by constant battles since the beginning of the war over a year ago, stood alone. Her hangar deck still bearing that sign, Enterprise versus Japan. It seemed that again, once more, she would stand as the free world's only protector in the Pacific.
Hey, Enterprise!
Huh? The fuck? Oh! Is that what I think it is? No way.
We've got it from here. I'm Essex.
That's a USS Essex. That's the weirdest name for a ship, let's be honest.
The first of many and full of fight. I'm intrepid, defending our legacy.
Damn.
Bunker Hill. Never surrender, never sink.
Ticonderoga, on the seas and in the sky.
Shangri-La, strike from the heavens. Lexington 16, forging the future.
That's an entire squadron of aircraft carriers, and they are all in one fucking zip code. I have Intrepid as well, lol. Damn.
Task Force 58!
Holy fuck. Damn. They are the girls of the Essex class of carriers. That's an entirely new class of aircraft carriers? Damn. Ships that go bumping tonight.
With the arrival of the Essex-class carriers, Enterprise finally got a chance to return for her refit. On the 27th
Finally.
of May 1943, she returned to Pearl Harbor, where Nimitz honored her with the first ever Presidential Unit Citation awarded to an aircraft carrier in United
Dang.
States naval history.
Holy.
Her air group were detached and sent back to the mainland for special training, while Enterprise herself was sent to Puget Sound Naval Yard for refit up to modern standards.
Nice.
She needed extensive overhauls to repair all the battle damage she had suffered from her valiant service. It was so bad that Vestal and a crew of Seabees had been aboard her, keeping her afloat all the way back to Pearl Harbor.
Holy.
Improving her defenses was therefore obviously the biggest priority.
How much DACA can we fit on this thing? Answer. All the DACA. What is a DACA? Hold up. What is a DACA? A machine gun. Machine guns, eh? Yes! More machine guns! It's Orkstank for guns in Warhammer 40k. Guns. Lots of guns.
If
I
she
love
was
it.
going to survive the ever-increasing lethality of the battle space. And so, when she docked in Puget Sound on the 20th of July 1943, a question was asked. How many guns do you want on this thing? To which the response was yes.
Yes, all
The
the
sheer
guns.
amount of firepower added to this ship boggles the mind. As Drakenfell so often says, this was going to be American levels of anti-air defense.
Look at this. Orcs are the weirdest and most powerful thing to exist in the 40k universe. Prove me wrong. Sadly, I can't.
8 5-inch guns, 40 40mm Bofors guns, 50 20mm Oerlikon cannons, and enough ammunition to fight a police action single-handedly.
Damn.
Upgrades were made to all of her internal systems and radar, while adding huge armored blisters under the waterline for added stability and greatly enhanced protection from the deadly Japanese torpedoes. But as the title of this chapter suggests, and the fact that her air wing was on a special training rotation, there was one really big change to Enterprise's role that once again made her a pioneer and a legend.
Like I said, oh, the DACA. Yeah. All the tech, all the guns that you have, give them to me.
CV6 was to be the first ever night-capable carrier. Designation cvN. And given her
Wait, that's where the N comes from? I always thought that N stands for nuclear. Alright, I was wrong, I guess. I will just throw a shot in the dark and say that we aren't even 30 minutes into the reaction of the video. We are making a hour 15 minutes. Oh, sorry. I think we already scorched the 2 hour mark, and we are not even a hour in.
successor, you know why that's so perfect. The Reapers and their strike colleagues, meanwhile, were to become the experts at the cutting edge of naval aviation. However, there was one more vital change before she was combat ready.
Huh?
A new coat of paint. And emblazoned on her decks were the symbols she would be known by for all time. All who flew over her would be graced with a giant but singular numeral. The number 6.
In modern times, yes, it might stand for nuclear, but back then it was a designation for a night strike capable carrier. Damn.
It was time for
Oh my, I thought we were still below half an hour, how it went last time. True. But I think this time we will be surpassing like 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
the Grey Ghost to get back in action. Enterprise pulled into Pearl Harbor on November 7th, 1943, for her new assignment. Her assignment was to provide the long-awaited night strike capability to the Fast Carrier Task Force, designated Task Force 58.
Nice.
And to give you an idea where we're at, this is a picture of what Task Force 58 looked like in 1944.
Holy shit! Oh my god! Fan pinned Pennywise against Florida Man Warlock, yeah. And the reason I say in modern times because most naval fighters are all day and all weather capable. Yeah, true. And holy shit! Like, and it's it goes into the horizon. Holy shit! Like, it most likely that it is not all the ships in the picture. Jakes, by chance, are you a person with militaritism? I bet he is. Like, 5 aircraft carriers in a row, I think. Yes, also an enemy and Warhammer Katism, lol. Damn. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
Just look at it. Military
Stop,
industrial complex go.
What? Wait, did I talk about Warhammer in the last Reaction Friday? Yes. Yes, you talked about Warhammer in the last Action Friday a lot. you two did a lot. You were nerdy nerd. It like 40 minutes of the last Enterprise video was you two just typing about Warhammer 40k. Talk to him, lol. Apex. Yeah, you missed a word. Wait, what? Wait, what? What did I miss? Talk to you about, yeah. Yeah, read that message again. Did I talk to you about Warhammer in the last Reaction Friday? You did. You did a lot.
Enterprise's Enterprise's first combat action after her refit was in support of retaking Macon Atoll by the 27th Infantry Division from November 19th to the 21st. The brand new F-6F Hellcats with their multi-role capability proved to be outstanding at close air support. Unfortunately,
I'm one of those people who enjoy studying military history and as a hobby, lol. Same a little bit when I have the time.
Though, the invasion was a bit of a fiasco.
Huh?
Japanese submarine I-175
Oh.
managed to penetrate the ASW screen and sink the escort carrier USS Liscombe Bay with a direct hit to the ammunition storage hold,
Ouch.
detonating the ship and killing 644 men, while the amphibious operation was a victim of bad intelligence, getting stuck on reefs and sandbars not discovered during the initial invasion reconnaissance. Nevertheless, the Americans managed to take the island after defeating the 400-man garrison, but the price was a costly one.
Yeah.
But Enterprise came into her own during the aftermath of this operation and proved her new capability. On the 26th of November, a wing of G4M Bettys launched a night attack on US Task Force 50.2, attached to the invasion force. Enterprise scrambled its fighter squadron on the alert status, VF2. In command of VF2 was the legendary Navy ace Butch O'Hare.
Oh!
The fighters were vectored onto the oncoming Japanese formation, and spotting them against the dark indigo sky, commenced their attack.
Also, in the word of fan about the, can't remember what Lehman Russ's chapter is called, Space Forest. Damn.
Several bombers went down in flames, while the remainder unloaded their defensive guns at the black shapes in the gloom. The Japanese were taken completely unawares. They had heard no reports or even thought it possible that they would face naval night fighters. In an uncharacteristic panic, they ditched their bombs and ran for home. Their job done,
Good.
the Americans returned to base only to find themselves one man missing.
Huh?
And it was the unthinkable. The man who failed to return was Butch O'Hare.
Oh.
It's assumed he took critical damage or was killed outright by return fire from the bombers, as no shoot was seen or radio call made.
Damn.
He simply
Give me a second. I'm about to sneeze. Damn it. The Space Force, lol. Okay, yes, the Space Force or Space Vikings. Oh. Damn it.
vanished and was never found. But war does not leave time to mourn, and Enterprise was the only night-capable strike weapon the US Navy had available, and they needed her for a mission which a year ago would have been near suicidal. So, you remember that massive fortress garrisoned by the two biggest battleships ever built, surrounded by hundreds of AA guns, 5 airfields full of Zeros, and enough soldiers to successfully police Chicago? Yeah. Truck Lagoon, Japan's fleet base in the South Pacific and target number 1 for US air power in the region. But now Enterprise had night capability. And moreover, she had an entire battle group of younger sisters in the Essex class, eager to lay waste to their enemies.
Damn.
And so a plan was drawn up by Nimitz to finally neutralize Truck Lagoon. The operation was titled Operation Hailstone.
Hailstone, damn. Again, let us sink in. Anti was our only night strike capable carrier. Yeah, I understand that very well.
On February 17th, 1940...
The Big E was the main character of the entire Pacific conflict, basically.
Enterprise, Essex, Intrepid, Bunker Hill, and Yorktown II, along with their escort carriers, moved into position.
Yorktown the second? Hello?
Them, they had 500 planes and a plan.
Like gasp! How do you know about the Big E without knowing about Warhammer Apex? Enterprise. It's literal nickname, the Big E. Like, hello?
In the early morning darkness, the first wave of fighters launched, followed by the TBF Avengers, led by Enterprise's bomb group.
Oh, I thought you
After
meant
getting
the Emperor.
airborne and forming up, the entire strike force dropped to wave-top height, flying at under 100 feet all the way to the target. Japanese radar was not as sophisticated as the sets used in Europe or the United States, and as such, they had no raid warning until lookouts sighted the raid approaching the target. The Grim Reapers, upon this moment, punched their engines and gained height above the bombers, while the Avengers moved in on the Japanese airfields. The Zeros on alert tried to get airborne, but only the aircraft on immediate standby managed to get up.
Yep, Yorktown 2 was an Essex-class aircraft carrier named in honor of Auntie's big sister. Oh, by the way, the Essex-class aircraft carriers, were they bigger than the Yorktown class, or were they like a little smaller, or were they the same? Jake, you got any favorite fanmade chapter?
Of the 300
God.
Japanese aircraft based at Truk, only 80 managed to launch. The rest were
Damn.
incinerated by Enterprise and Intrepid's Avenger pilots, who blanketed the airfields in cluster munitions and incendiary bombs. As the Zeros turned to engage the bombers that had hit their airfield, they were set upon by the Grim Reapers, along with their colleagues from the other 4 carriers. The new Hellcats had huge engines, 6
My favorite fan made is attack between the NK Marines and the Meme Marines. Lol. Yeah. Another time taken over by the Warhammer shit. Yeah. Yeah. Another Warhammer takeover is happening. I must not allow that to happen.
50 cal machine guns, and pilots with hundreds of hours on type in training. The older A6M2s and A6M3s were already too slow to keep up with them, and even in the most favorable conditions, they would have had a hard time beating them. In this situation, just after takeoff, no altitude, no speed, no warning, no chance. The Americans hit them again and again throughout the day, with almost the entire air garrison of Truk being wiped out, with the loss of only 4 Hellcats.
Damn.
The Americans
Lol, the Marine look like literal clowns.
had achieved air superiority
Exactly, and they are absolutely hilarious.
The target.
Wait. And my NK Marines cause power and power chairs and middle finger weapons. Jesus.
over, with almost the entire air garrison of Truk being wiped out, with the loss of only 4 Hellcats. The Americans had achieved air superiority over the target, and now they intended to use it. The airfields, having been suppressed, were finished off in the second wave, leaving the lagoon completely helpless against the systematic dismemberment that was about to take place.
Holy
Luckily
shit.
for the Japanese, they had recognized the vulnerability of Truk since the loss of Guadalcanal and the Solomons, which led them to withdraw Yamato and Musashi to their anchorage in the home islands. But the unfortunate fact was that this base had the majority of their infrastructure in their outer defense perimeter.
I love their power bats and marine cannons, lol, that they use to launch themselves at the enemy. Please don't turn that into a Warhammer 40k discussion. We will have that for the next week, okay? Please, for the love of God.
And as a result, a large contingent of their transport shipping still transited through Truk regularly. The Americans launched multiple raids throughout the day, sinking over 200,000 tons of shipping. 2 cruisers, 4 destroyers, 3 auxiliary cruisers, 6 auxiliary support vessels of various types and purpose, and 32 merchants. This was on top of over 250 aircraft, all of the base infrastructure, and 4,500 personnel.
Shubex, you must get somewhat educated about the angry yet loyal people in Warhammer. I get it, but please can we get that to the next week? Because at this point, we will be here. Those 30 minutes that are left will turn into 2 hours if we will continue like that. Just saying.
But the most impressive fact of all of this? Well,
Okay, Debex, we need to have you watch Major killed video on these boys, okay? And you're complaining. It's nearly midnight, Rainbow. And there are 4 more videos to watch. Just saying.
their ability to operate at night, the later strikes were exclusively conducted by Enterprise.
I know
representing
we're in the same time zone. Yeah, Major kills, or not Major killed. Wait, what? Major kills. Yeah.
first radar-guided night attack by carrier-launched aircraft. The pilots of USS Enterprise would claim a third of all the ships sunk during Operation Hailstone,
Major kills.
while the Reapers took a similarly hefty toll on the Zeros. The highest individual score across both categories among all of the carriers present. The next few weeks would prove frantically busy for Enterprise as she, along with her fellow carriers, sailed through the Caroline Islands as part of Operation Cartwheel, the ongoing campaign to encircle Rabaul and finish the Solomon Islands campaign once and for all. She launched strikes on Peleliu, Yap, Ulithi, and Wolyai before sailing to support amphibious landings in New Guinea.
Damn.
It was a busy couple of months, but she executed her duties with the same lethal efficiency she always displayed. And it was then she was ordered back to the forward replenishment base on Majuro Island in the Marshalls to stand by for an upcoming offensive.
Okay.
Task Force 58 was to be the primary striking force in support of a campaign to take the Marianas Islands and to liberate Guam. And at the core of this operation was the island of Saipan and its airfields.
Oh,
Taking this island would give
Saipan.
the Americans a base from which they could operate a brand new aircraft they were developing to strike the Japanese home islands. And there were quiet rumors in the upper levels of the Pentagon that it was also intended to carry a secret weapon. The Japanese, likewise, were committed. This was sovereign Japanese territory, their territory. Allowing the enemy to take it would be a dishonor to both the army and navy, and it was one they could not accept, especially the navy, who after their Pyrrhic victory at Santa Cruz had failed to halt the oncoming American threat, and allowed their commander-in-chief, Admiral Yamamoto, to be assassinated by the enemy. They had to be stopped here. Combined Fleet had a new armored fleet carrier, the Taiho.
Oh.
They had Yamato and Musashi. They had Kongo and Haruna. But most vital of all, they had Carrier Division 5, Shokaku and Zuikaku, who were both freshly equipped with new air groups. And that was just the capital ships. The light carrier force of the Imperial Japanese Navy was still very much in play. But the fact was that Japanese pilot losses had been horrific, and unlike the Allies, their reserves of trained manpower was much lower than the required number of replacements. The naval aviators of Combined Fleet were a shadow of their predecessors, but that was of little concern. The Kantai Kessen, the decisive battle, was once again upon them. This was their last chance to blunt the American offensive. If the Americans took Saipan, they could strike the homeland, their emperor. They must be stopped here. They must go this far and no further. Combined Fleet under Admiral Ozawa put to sea. This would be the decider of his country's fate. History would come to know the upcoming showdown as the Battle of the Philippine Sea. But that's not its true name. The name of that battle was granted to it by the aviators of USS Lexington, CV-16, and it has been passed down through the generations to this very day as the tale of how the Japanese Naval Air Service died.
Oh. Wait, before that, speaking of the USS Lexington, Jake, back to my question. The Essex class of the aircraft carriers, in comparison to the Yorktown class aircraft carriers, is the Essex bigger in a way, or is it like has more defense, more firepower, or whatever? Like, what's the difference between them? I'm just asking here.
This battle is known by this name.
The Great Marianas Turkish shooter. Oh! I fell by your side. Oh Lord, you tried to give you us. Oh Lord.
USS.
They were both larger, bigger engines and more defensive measures. So that's the difference. Alright, got it. So, big, faster and tougher, basically. Is that what I'm getting?
USS Enterprise, alongside the other ships of Task Force 58, ran an extensive air campaign throughout the Marianas.
They also could carry more planes as well. So they're bigger, faster, tougher. How did this song go? Give me a second. Oh my god. How did this song went? Harder, better, faster, stronger, right? Yep. Stronger than Kanye West. No! No, do not bring Kanye. Not gonna lie, at some point possible, I'd love to get me armies full of stuff like I like from Warhammer. You will definitely get yourself some. I have no doubt about it.
King Guam, Saipan, and Rota amongst other targets. The Japanese had not expected a push this far north so soon.
Ain't Strong from Daft Punk? No, there's two. Stronger by Kanye West is by Kanye Jest. And there's the second. Harder, better, faster, stronger by Daft Punk. That's the one. So yeah.
Rather, they were certain a campaign to secure the rest of the Southern Pacific, or perhaps an offensive launched into Indonesia to threaten their oil supplies. This is what led them to realize that their goal was air bases to attack the home islands. The problem was, while Saipan and Guam were veritable fortresses, guarded with the largest concentration of Japanese armored units outside of China and Kyushu, as well as tens of thousands of men in well-entrenched positions, their air power was diffused amongst all their other installations to guard Truk, which as we saw didn't go as planned, as well as other major islands such as Rabaul and Peleliu, meaning they only had a force of around 50 land-based aircraft in the Marianas as a whole. This is what led to the aforementioned mass deployment of what amounted to the entire Japanese Navy.
Oh.
It was the only way to get enough assets in theater to have a hope of achieving victory. If they could disrupt the landing forces and drive off Task Force 58, Yamato and Musashi could get amongst the transports and massacre the landing force in a counterattack.
Damn.
The odds were long. Like, really, really long. But it was all or nothing at this point. By contrast, the Americans had, as the youth of today say, aircraft for literal days. They outnumbered the Japanese 2-1 in aircraft, and what's even crazier is that the quality of those planes and their pilots was far superior.
Damn.
The Japanese, due to their industrial
Lol, dystopia, right? Not gonna happen, Bonsai Jimmy.
and technological limitations, had not been able to field new aircraft capable of meeting the American threat, at least not with their naval aviation designs. The newer Judy naval bomber was a step in the right direction.
I beg your pardon, Asurlane explanations, man. Yeah.
The later models of A6M5, but there simply weren't enough of them. The Army was having better luck with the Ki-61 and the Ki-84 designs, and there was...
It's ice for days or bayonetas for days. What? Whatever.
some hope in the horizon for the Navy. The N1K
Put some respect on the abridged boys' names.
Shiden.
Okay, and whatever.
The Army was having better luck with the Ki-61 and the Ki-84 designs, and there was some hope in the horizon for the Navy. The N1K Shiden Kai was one of the best fighters of World War II, and it had started service, at least in limited numbers, in 1943. But they, as I mentioned, were even rarer than the other designs, and worst of all, despite being a naval fighter, they were not carrier capable. And so, this battle would be fought once again with Zeros, Vals, and Kates versus Hellcats, Avengers, Corsairs, and Helldivers. Although some FM2 Wildcats and SPDs were still present at this battle. As dawn of June 15th, 1944 swept the horizon, Amtraks began rolling off LSTs, forming a gaggle fuck the likes of which mankind hadn't yet seen. Thousands upon thousands of malicious beings, fueled by nicotine, crayons, and hatred, slowly made their way towards the beaches. No longer were they the under-resourced and undermanned shambles that held the line 2 years prior against all odds. No, these were well-equipped, heavily armed, lean, mean Marines.
Damn.
And in the words of Union Cavalry Commander John Buford at the Battle of Gettysburg, there would be a devil to pay. The Japanese were waiting for them. As the Amtraks approached the Coral and Shallows, the crews noticed odd flags fixed at various intervals.
And for Japan, that was the saddest part of the N1K Shiden Kai. It was an amazing fighter, but since it wasn't carrier capable, it couldn't make the impact it otherwise could. Damn. Fun fact, you know SpongeBob is a reality warper. I know. Isn't he like a Calamity class SCP or something?
And then they realized with horror that the Japanese had planned way farther ahead than they thought.
Huh?
Range markers.
Oh.
Artillery began hitting the landing craft with deadly precision, killing hundreds of...
Oh, hell no, we don't bring up that damned pencil. Yeah, pretty much. As long as he ain't pissed at you, yeah. You's good, yeah.
...of men before they even got to the beaches. The ones that did make it were very soon cut down by overlapping fields of fire from machine guns. Over 1,000 men fell battling through those defenses. But as they struggled through, the pillboxes and gun positions were systematically obliterated by airstrikes delivered by none other than USS Enterprise and her colleagues. By nightfall, the Americans had managed to establish a beachhead, which they held against a brutal counterattack, one of the most incredibly tense battles of the entire Pacific War, inflicting devastating losses on the Japanese, wiping out much of their remaining armor in the process. The commander of naval...
Oh god, Red Boy, imagine if SpongeBob met the Chaos Gods. God, is it about to go the train I'm thinking about? Oh goodness, I will better ignore the chat.
Infantry and what little air power on Saipan there was, one Admiral Choichi Nagamo.
Isn't that the son of a bitch who abandoned his ship in part 1? I fucking remember, you can't.
Yep. He's back. Advised Vice Admiral Ozawa of the situation.
Sweet Jesus Throne, and Sith would have a seizure trying to destroy him. Yep, him again. Knew it. Always recognize a bitch when you see one.
And so the fateful decision was made. The Kantai Kessen. The decisive battle would be fought here. And the entirety of Combined Fleet sailed to meet the invaders.
Oh god.
Meanwhile, Nimitz, who was coordinating with Admiral Spruance, had been reading reports on large Japanese fleet movements while keeping up to date with the landings on Saipan. It was then he got an urgent signal from USS Flying Fish, a Gato-class submarine conducting recon as an advance picket. They had spotted what to them looked like the entire Japanese Navy sailing straight towards the Marianas. This was likewise met with reports from other submarines that detected smaller groups of surface ships, including battleships, coming from all axes of advance still under Japanese control. Both Spruance and Nimitz agreed that this had to be the all-or-nothing play they suspected would come sooner or later, and that every Japanese ship still afloat was coming to the party. This was followed by a signal intercepted from a lone communications vessel. Admiral Ozawa was sending word ahead to Guam that he wanted to use the airfield to forward stage his aircraft after their initial strikes. At this news, the Task Force 58 commander, Admiral Mitcher, wanted to sail his forces into an attack position, ready to strike first. But Spruance instead saw this as an opportunity. Instead of meeting the attack, let's play their game and set a trap. Frag orders went out to the fighter squadrons across the fleet. Combat air patrols would go up at dawn, while an entire wing of Hellcats would be ordered to conduct a defensive combat air patrol and fighter sweep over Guam, Rota, and the surrounding islands. If the Japanese wanted to come have a go, the Americans would be more than happy to oblige them. After all, they had radar, superior aircraft, an integrated air defense network, and the new anti-aircraft refits completed across all vessels, which came with proximity-fused ammunition. Any frontal assault by aircraft against them without adequate numbers of experienced pilots in good planes would be flat-out suicidal. Unfortunately, the Japanese would later prove they had no hesitation in that regard. On the 19th of June 1944, the morning was filled with activity on both sides. Aircraft from Guam began taking off in search of the American fleet, while Enterprise and her pilots began prepping to launch. At 5:50 a.m., a single Zero on his search patrol found Task Force 58 sailing into the wind to launch aircraft, and immediately radioed the fleet's position.
Oh shit.
This done, he dived in on one of the destroyer pickets to deposit his bomb that he had on board. It was then that this poor Japanese aviator discovered the advances the Americans had made in their anti-aircraft defense, when he was immediately obliterated by concentrated fire. Realizing that they had now been spotted, USS Belleau Wood expedited its launch procedures and scrambled its entire contingent of
I'm sorry, did I just hear Bellawood? USS Bellawood? It's better has some Marines on it.
Hellcats to cover the combat air patrol mission over Guam. They had arrived just as the main strike group of Zeros were taking off, just as had happened at Truk several months before. The poor Japanese pilots had absolutely no hope of survival. And in the ensuing dogfight, 35 aircraft were shot down to the loss of one Hellcat.
Damn!
They then set about strafing the airfield and suppressing the defenders when an alarm call came through their headsets. Hey Rube! Hey Rube! Hey Rube!
What?
The emergency recall message. Task Force 58's air defense radar pickets had picked up a large formation of Japanese aircraft. Several of them, in fact. Incoming to strike the American carrier force. Immediately, all US aircraft were launched. The fighters formed up into their squadrons to be vectored for intercept, while the bombers moved to staging areas away from the main battle area for safety. Spruance wanted the carriers to be empty should they take any hits in order to preserve his force as much as possible. At that point, a raid count was reported to the commander of air operations. 68 bandits in total were out there in the first wave. But for some reason, they were scattered in smaller groups. The Japanese had not formed up after launch. Rather, they had decided to stage immediately prior to launching the attack outside of the area of Task Force 58's control. While this is optimal both in attack coordination and fuel economy, it doesn't factor in the reality that the Americans would have seen them on radar. In the time it took for the Japanese attack to get organized, Task Force 58's fighters were vectored onto them. The Hellcats from Enterprise and Lexington reached the Japanese first. The Grim Reapers once again proved that their name was well earned, tearing into a formation of zeros, while Lexington's pilots went after the bomber formation behind them. Lieutenant Alexander Vrashu from VF-16 lined up on the formation of newer Judy bombers and engaged. The pilots were either very well disciplined or brand new, most likely the latter, as they didn't maneuver or change formation in an effort to foil his attack. They maintained their speed and heading. In just under 8 minutes, Alex Vrashu had shot down 6 of the bombers before breaking off his attack.
Damn!
He wouldn't get a chance to go in for another run, however, as the remainder of the Hellcats from the other carriers joined the fray. 25 Japanese planes had been shot down in that initial engagement with Enterprise and Lex, but the ordeal wasn't over. At the hands of Essex, Bunker Hill, and half a dozen other fighter groups, another 17 were blasted out of the sky, leaving only 27 aircraft left to conduct an attack. Realizing that getting through to the carriers would be nearly impossible, they decided to attack the battleships and destroyers, providing the anti-aircraft screen, in the hopes that they could soften them up enough to give their comrades in the second and third waves a chance.
A bad idea. By the time all the naval artillery, my tongue. By the time all the naval artillery, the air guns, all the air guns of the American fleet, they all have already the VT fuse, right?
The Hellcats broke off, leaving the anti-air gunners a clear
idea.
field of fire, which they used to great effect. As a wall of lead flew into the sky, even more Japanese aircraft went up in flames or broke apart. From a raid of 68 aircraft, they were now down to 6 planes. Spotting USS South Dakota, they rolled in for an attack, but due to the weight of fire and the inexperience of the crews, only one bomb made contact, killing 50 men but otherwise doing no serious damage. However,
yes, this is after the deployment of the VT Fuchs Apex. Those Japanese are fucked.
The price they paid for that one hit did not equate in the slightest, and their day was only going to get a lot worse. As that doomed first wave of aircraft was disappearing over the horizon from their carriers, the second wave began launch operations on the now empty flight decks. Taiho, the flagship with Admiral Ozawa on board, was leading the second wave with her air group, and as such she was into the wind, sailing straight and true. One after another, a total of 42 aircraft lifted from her decks, quickly followed by aircraft from Shokaku and Suikaku. They were completely unaware that the submarine USS Albacore had been stalking the formation for the past 2 hours and had gotten inside their ASW screen. Failures in her targeting computer meant they had to aim by sight, but they had gotten close enough that it really didn't matter. A full spread of 6 torpedoes began their run against Taiho. 4 of the torpedoes were wide, leaving only 2 to do the job. One of the last aircraft that had launched from Taiho, however, spotted the launch, and in an act of incredible bravery, dove his aircraft into the path of one of the torpedoes.
Oh.
But ultimately, one weapon made it through. And of all the places to hit, it hit the one place on a Japanese carrier that will kill it.
Huh?
USS Albacore's last torpedo smashed into the Taiho's hull directly underneath the aviation fuel tanks. While this on the surface did not seem fatal, as it...
Oh damn, 6 torpedoes. Who's getting a train rammed into them? Speaking of trains, do you want a US ship that sent a train flying and then sunk into the ocean? There was one. Or there will be one later. Yes. Don't worry, it will be probably the next part of the Enterprise, or I will just show a electrician video.
Had done with the carriers of Kido Butai, the enclosed hangar decks, and the excessive number of watertight bulkheads all the way up to Taiho's armored flight deck meant that fuel leaks and gasoline vapor spread flammable material all throughout the ship. So you now have a bunch of enclosed spaces filled with a fuel-air mixture, which is on a ship that is operating both weapons and performing aircraft maintenance. And that maintenance is performed with things like welding torches and generators.
Holy!
Taiho exploded, completely destroying the ship along the length of the flight deck, killing 1,650 men.
Jesus.
Admiral Ozawa, being on the bridge...
You was right, it would be 2 hours before we finished the video.
survived,
Yeah.
and so along with his staff, he
Told ya.
immediately transferred his flag to Zuikaku in order to keep track of the battle. Though I have a feeling at this point he probably wished that the explosion had incinerated him,
Yeah.
as the news he was receiving was nothing short of disastrous.
I can
As
imagine
the
that.
drama at the Japanese fleet played out, the Americans were in complete control of the situation, though it was a tense one. The second wave that Taiho had initiated was now reaching their radar picket line, a raid count of 107 aircraft. This time, though, the
By the way, Apex wanted to ask, what do you want to ask? You want me to organize the cooking shorts in order in the playlist? Because they are there. Let's do the cooking shorts after all the Warhammer stuff, because I don't want to ruin the flow, if you know what I mean. Yeah, don't worry. Okay, thank you.
Hellcats were airborne and intercepted them head-on, 60
Okay, I mean, in order after the Warhammer stuff. Yeah, exactly.
miles away. The Hellcats were airborne and intercepted them head-on, 60 miles away from the task force. 50 cal tracer arced through the sky, drawing lines of death as the naval aviators smelled blood. The enemy was in their sights and at their mercy. However, no mercy would be shown.
Yeah.
Of the 107 aircraft in Wave 2, 70 were shot down before they even saw the US carrier group.
Jesus. Let me clarify. In the playlist, the first stuff are the Warhammer, and then finish it. Got it? So I wanted to know if you want them in order after we start funnies. First all the Warhammer stuff to keep it in the flow, and after all the Warhammer stuff is done, we can move to the funny shorts. Yeah? Yes, exactly. Yes, then keep it that way, please.
The remaining 30, knowing their fate was sealed, disregarded reason or sanity and dove headlong through the defensive AA screen at the nearest carrier they could find. The ship they found was USS Enterprise.
Of course!
But
so I'll put his cooking in order in the playlist after Warhammer start. Okay, thank you, Rainbow.
if you think she was going to stand for this, you are gravely mistaken. The Grey Ghost made highly erratic evasive turns. Her hangar bays being empty meant she almost took flight herself.
Damn!
One torpedo exploded in her wake and no hits were scored. Her gunners, meanwhile, did not miss their mark, sending several of the attackers down in flames. The remaining Japanese aircraft tried to hit the USS Princeton, but were gunned down by AA fire before they could even get close. 107 Japanese aircraft attacked Task Force 58 in Wave 2. Only 10 made it back. The damage they had inflicted was nil. As the first flights of Hellcats landed, Alex Vreeshu hopped out of his cockpit aboard Task Force 58's flagship, the Lady Lex, and he was received with a hero's welcome. He saw Admiral Mitchell looking down on him from the bridge catwalk. He grinned and held up 6 fingers. At that moment, a correspondent asked him to hold the gesture and snapped this iconic photograph.
What a
An
mad
image
lad.
which became the symbol of the battle, as well as giving the battle its name. As while Lexington's pilots reported their incredible scores, one of them was heard to say, "Hell, it's like an old-time turkey shoot." Meanwhile, back at the Japanese fleet, another US submarine was stalking closer to its prey. While USS Albacore had made its attack and drawn the destroyer screen towards them, USS Kavala had used the chaos to close in on the biggest target in the formation.
Oh?
Shokaku was just finishing up her evolutions from recovering the survivors of the attack against Task Force 58, and was now in the process of rearming and refueling them. At that moment, a full spread of torpedoes slammed into her starboard side. Once again, the enclosed hangar decks proved fatal, as the torpedo which hit the bow shattered the aviation fuel tanks while cooking off the aircraft being rearmed. This started a chain reaction along the ship, eventually hitting the munition storage, which went up like a fireball that rapidly began burning out of control.
You can tell that those are not the Mark 14 torpedoes, because both the torpedoes that did land into the aircraft carriers, or both blew up as they're supposed to, and damn, they're both one-shotted those aircraft carriers. Holy shit.
Eventually, after a few minutes, the vapor from the ruptured fuel lines reached critical temperature and ignited. Shokaku exploded, killing 1,253 men. 2 of the 3 fleet carriers the battle began with had been lost. All that remained was Zuikaku and an assortment of light carriers. But a
Not for
carrier
long,
without
though.
an air group is just a boat. By the end of the day, their air groups would be gone. The third attack wave of Japanese aircraft was intercepted further out from the American task force than the others by a wing of 40 Hellcats. The Japanese lost 7 planes in the initial pass, and upon realizing they could not get near the enemy task force before losses became critical, they wisely chose to abort their mission, meaning that they would survive to return to what was left of Kido Butai. The fourth wave, though, would not be so lucky. The fourth wave had been given an incorrect heading to the American task force and got lost. Being split up and disorganized, they decided to return to the base on Guam. As they did so, though, a contingent of 18 aircraft once again stumbled across none other than USS Enterprise. However, her combat air patrol was up, and the Grim Reapers spotted them first. They would go on to shoot down 9 of them before they could even start their attack. The surviving 9 aircraft, realizing that that was a bad idea, switched their focus to Wasp and Bunker Hill, but scored no hits. Only 1 of the 18 attackers managed to escape, but the American fighter pilots weren't done. They realized the amount of damage they had done to the first 2 waves, and thus detailed several flights of Hellcats to sweep Guam's airfields in case any stragglers diverted to land there instead of the carriers. And they did this without realizing that the 4th wave had aborted there. And so as the remaining 49 Japanese aircraft entered the landing pattern, the Americans jumped them. 30 of the Japanese planes were shot down, while the other 19 were so heavily damaged they were written off on landing. Throughout the rest of the day, roving fighter sweeps caught stragglers and cleared the way for search and rescue efforts for what few US pilots were shot
Jackie
down.
is still here? I bet Jackie's still here. She's just listening.
As the 19th of June 1944 ended, the Americans had lost 30 aircraft and suffered light damage to 1 ship, and the pilots of those aircraft were mostly recovered.
Phew,
The
thank
Japanese,
God.
by contrast, had lost 2 fleet carriers, over 350 aircraft, and thousands.
That's like over 11-to-1 KD ratio. Holy shit. Fan pitted Pennywise against Grey Knights in a skid. He woke up on holy terror. Damn.
Men. And the worst part of all for them was, as night fell,
Huh?
Task Force 58 moved into attack position.
Ooh, of
The
course.
battle wasn't over. But amazingly
Because the Enterprise apparently never gets tired.
enough, it was then that the Japanese themselves finally had a stroke of luck.
Huh?
After the devastating losses they had suffered, Admiral Ozawa decided to reposition his carriers west and launch attacks from his air groups that he assumed were safely on the ground at Guam. He had no idea that they had already been destroyed. This meant that when the Americans went looking for where the Japanese had been, they were long gone.
Oh.
Almost the whole day went by when a scout from USS Enterprise finally found Kido Butai. The problem was they were approaching the limit of strike range, and given it was 14:30 or 2:30 p.m. when the report came in, that gave the Americans only one chance to hit the Japanese before operations would have to be concluded.
Okay.
Mitcher ordered a full-scale attack with multiple waves to launch in sequence. The first wave of 226 aircraft, 95 Hellcats, 54 Avengers, 51 Helldivers, and 26 Dauntlesses, took off, formed up, and headed to the target. It was then that a frantic message came through from Enterprise's scout. Their range calculation had been incorrect.
Huh?
The Japanese were actually 60 miles further away than they thought.
Oh, shit.
Mitcher immediately cancelled the subsequent waves of aircraft, but not wanting to lose this opportunity to counterattack, he ordered the first wave to continue on mission. Zuikaku's combat air patrol, 35-0 strong, was orbiting Kido Butai and getting ready to organize recovery for the night. As the sun began to set, however, they noted a large black cloud swarming towards them.
Oh?
Over 200 American aircraft from Task Force 58, intent on delivering the final knockout blow to the Japanese Navy. Stopping them
Jesus.
was not going to happen. As such, the only thing they could do was dive in and try to take down as many of the enemy as they could. But with 95 Hellcats between them and the bombers, it was never really going to pose a true threat. The combat air patrol was swept aside as though they weren't there, clearing the way for the Avengers and dive bombers to hit their targets. Enterprise's air group was in one of the leading elements. Seeing the other flights breaking off to hit different targets, VB and VT-10 split off between the ships. The Avengers zoned in on Ryuho, dropping their bombs.
Oh my, yeah.
However, they only inflicted minor shock damage with near misses from their main bomb load. The dive bombers, however, had better luck. They had chosen the biggest target and the current flagship, Zuikaku. Near misses caused shock damage to her hull as well, but one bomb managed to hit the flight deck and detonated in the hangar bay, starting fires. But fully aware to the danger and light on aircraft, she did not suffer the same fate as her sisters.
Huh?
Her neighboring carrier Hiyo did not.
Oh.
A flight of Avengers from USS Bellewood slammed her with torpedoes and bombs. Like the other carriers before, the same fatal flaw doomed the ship. A fuel air explosion detonated the hull, setting her ablaze, rendering her dead in the water, ultimately leading her to sink stern first. The Japanese ships had begun to evade and scatter, managing to avoid serious damage other than superficial hits. But with the loss of Hiyo, Taiho, and Shokaku, along with the entirety of the fleet's aircraft, the battle was now done.
Completely.
And no one could deny the scale of the Americans' victory.
It was absolute dominance. Like, overall, I believe the US forces lost like maybe up to 50 aircraft. But holy shit! The Japanese lost like at least 500 airplanes. Like, holy shit.
They had destroyed the entire Imperial Japanese Naval Air Service for less than 40 aircraft.
Yikes, yeah.
And minor damage to South Dakota.
Wait,
Air service for less than 40 air.
That's one fucker of a loss, yeah. Not only that, but they lost their entire like naval fleet. Listen to that again. Naval aerial fleet.
They had destroyed the entire Imperial Japanese Naval Air Service for less than 40 aircraft. And
less than 40 aircraft lost. In the entire battle. In the meantime, only in the first one, where the US lost 30 Hellcats. God damn, yeah. The Japanese lost 350 aircraft. Like, hello! It's not even a comparison at this point. It's fucking domination. Just damn.
Minor damage to South Dakota. But in a twist of fate,
huh?
the Americans would end up balancing the score themselves.
Oh, what?
Due to the miscalculation of range when the attack was launched,
Oh.
it became clear to the aviators and the flag officers of Task Force 58 that a large number of the strike package would not be able to return to the fleet and be forced to ditch.
Oh.
Worse still, they had attacked at sunset, meaning those landings would be night landings, something only the Enterprise aviators were really trained to do.
Oh.
At 20:45, the first American aircraft began arriving, running on literal fumes. Knowing that their pilots wouldn't be able to see, they made a risky but necessary tactical decision. All of a sudden, the lights of Task Force 58 flashed on. All the carriers lit up like Christmas trees, while all the surface warships began firing star shells to bring the raiders back home. A radio call went out for all returning aircraft that restrictions on landing protocols were completely lifted. If you can find a carrier, just land on it. We'll sort out who belongs where tomorrow.
Okay.
This led to a tense situation where 2 aircraft tried landing on Enterprise simultaneously,
Oh.
but miraculously, they avoided crashing and were successfully recovered.
Phew.
Aircraft from all over the fleet ended up on every single open flight deck, to the extent that half of Enterprise's land ended up on every single open flight deck.
Wait.
Aircraft from all over the fleet ended up on every single open flight deck.
Damn.
To the
And also, this one is missing a wheel. Hello?
extent that half of Enterprise's landings were from other carriers, while her flight
shit.
group ended up scattered across all throughout the carriers in the fleet.
Ouch.
This organized chaos took place all over Task Force 58 in one giant scramble to get aboard.
Yeah.
But despite these frankly Herculean efforts, 80 aircraft still ended up ditching,
Ouch.
with 3/4 of the crews being rescued. Sadly, however,
80 airmen were lost. Ow, that's painful.
some aircraft crashed on landing due to running out of fuel, while others went down unseen by air-sea rescue,
Oh,
costing the aviators aboard them their lives.
that sucks.
It was an unceremonious and tragic end to what had been a miraculously decisive victory.
Yeah.
They had accomplished their mission. The Marines on Saipan were safe from the naval and air threat, and Kido Butai, it seemed, had been vanquished once and for all. But not completely.
What?
Suikaku, her air wing decimated, and her sister dead, limped home with her wounded comrades throughout the night.
Oh.
The outcome of the war was now no longer in doubt.
Yeah.
It was over. At one time, she and her sister sailed alongside the mightiest naval force the world had ever seen, and now
There's a new
that
champion.
seemed like a distant memory.
Yeah, there's a new champion now.
A hollow and pathetic joke in the face of the raw power that she had just witnessed.
Yeah. Holy
They couldn't
fuck.
stand against this. They had no help coming. There was no reinforcements, no saving grace. There was nothing. The Americans would take Saipan. Her old commander would die. Her countrymen, the men which she pledged to protect, they would all die.
Oh.
And the enemy would be in range of her homeland.
Very soon.
Suikaku was alone. There was no help coming. Of the original carriers of Kido Butai, which struck fear into the enemy, she was the very last one left. She was alone. Her country,
Enterprise in the mirror.
her
Hello.
family, her home, all of them would burn. And there was absolutely nothing that she could do to stop it.
There can be no peace in the world until the military power of Japan is destroyed. Substantial portions of Japan's key industrial centers
The Tokyo
have been leveled to
firebombing.
the ground
Oh.
in a series of record incendiary raids. What has
Oh.
already happened to Tokyo will happen to every Japanese city if the Japanese insist on continuing resistance
Oh,
beyond
fuck.
the point of reason. Our blows will destroy their whole modern industrial plant and organization, which they have built up during the past century and which they are now devoting to a hopeless cause. Only surrender can prevent the kind of ruin as a result of continued useless resistance.
Yeah, that's not pretty. And oh, the last one. The Enterprise cannot be stopped anymore. Special thanks to is there an option to leave a double like? Oh. Ah, those are voice actresses that he got his own voice actresses for the USS class carriers. Damn, goddamn, they're giving the Enterprise a rainbow arc. Damn straight. Holy shit. It's... Wow. It's insane. Is there anything in the end? Up! There's something. A Spitfire? Ah, it's his next video, right? A video about the Spitfire, okay. Funny fact, when Washington was fighting, it would constantly sway from side to side because every time Admiral Lee walked across the bridge, the sheer weight of his balls would cause the ship to list. Fuck. In fact, he eventually deduced that he could seriously reduce the recoil of the 16-inch guns by standing on the firing side of the bridge as the human recoil compensator. Ooh, that's a great joke. Can I show you the quick HD short before next video? Yeah, sure you can. Sure thing. If you liked watching this video, don't forget to leave a like and smash the subscribe button. And if you want to see more of my annoying voice and accent, don't forget to also watch my other reaction videos and join my regularly scheduled streams on Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday at 1 or 2 PM OST. You may like what you find. Until next time, Steam. Sleep tight, especially at midnight. Apex out.